You know what? I'm gonna play just because I'm so excited about it. We don't usually play the theme song before we start, but Roman, I don't know if you know, I wrote last year when we did Maylene 1, I wrote a Southern metal version of our theme song.
Oh yeah,
and had my friend Joe do vocals on it, and I just need to play it to just get in the vibe, guys. If everyone's good with that.
What's up, dude?
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah, brother.
Oh, man. Didn't you guys, like some of y'all, not to interrupt, but some of y'all were in a Southern hardcore rock band?
Yes, that was often called the finest Maylene cover band of Dallas-Fort Worth.
We would get done with our sets, and then the venue would immediately start playing Maylene, and we're like, okay, we get it.
Okay, like we know.
So Dallas, Fort Worth, do you guys know a guy named Bobby Harris?
Oh, hell yeah. We love Bobby Harris.
Yeah.
Dude, Bobby, I go to church with him, but he's a buddy of mine.
No way.
Yeah,
it is all connected.
It is. Time is a flat circle. Time is a flat circle. But yeah, Bobby, I mean, I had coffee with him this morning, but Bobby, like, he's my favorite thing out of Texas ever, except for hands down, like what your hardcore band was that I never got to hear. You know?
No, dude, Bobby, dude, okay.
Two things, you know?
Shout out to Bobby Harris. I've wanted to get him on this show, and we always just forget.
We got to get him on, man.
But I mean, he ran the Lighthouse, and we play there all the time. We all played there. He like I felt like Bobby was half of the reason why any of our bands in our 20s got any sort of success.
Anything, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
He was the champion,
dude.
Of so many of us.
Well, tell him that we say hey.
Yeah.
I will.
Next time you see him.
I will. I saw him this morning, actually, but it's funny because you mentioned the Lighthouse. Like, we rarely played anywhere else in Dallas other than that spot in Deep Ellum.
The Door.
They were the Door.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Door in Dallas. But I remember one time we came and we played the Lighthouse, and the band Wants Nothing was on tour with us at that time.
Oh,
you might remember those guys?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they like pranked us at the end of our set. And I just remember getting like pushed as hard as I've ever felt in my life, like off the stage, and landed on my bass. And I got up and I was certain everything was broken, but like I got up, my bass was fine. The only problem I had was like this knot on my arm that went away 2 days later.
Whoa.
And it was one of the more fun shows I've ever played. So
that's incredible.
And it's all thanks to Bobby Harris, dude. Like, you know,
Bobby Harris, man, he was the best. Okay, that was the best cold open I think I could hope for. Welcome to Church Jams Now, the podcast where three former youth group kids and current music nerds deep dive into Christian music from the 90s and 2000s. I, of course, am your co-host, Kylan Savage. With me, as always, is Mr. TJ Smith.
Hi, Kylan. I want to say I am doing well. Are you doing well, too?
Yes.
Good.
That's the opposite of what they teach you in improv, right? That's like not a yes and, just a yes.
You just yesed. You got half of it. You got 50%. 50% of improv class.
And of course, we have beautiful producer Josh.
I've said some outlandish things on this show, but I'll take back everything if you'll stand by my side, Kylan.
Ooh, nice.
Oh my god. Well, I have nothing clever. Yeah, I don't know why. You guys always come prepared, and then I don't, and then I just shut it down because that's what's funny to me. But we have back to the show a very special guest for the first. Wait, no, the first of our second. Hold on, there's a way to say this.
The second,
Maylene,
first third time.
Josh, can you explain not just the band, but what are we doing here at Church Jams now for the month of May?
Oh, it's Maylene.
Hell yeah, brother.
Like we always told you.
Hey, there it is.
And of course,
baby.
we have from the band Maylene and the Sons of Disaster, Roman Haviland. How you doing, Roman?
Hey, I'm gonna clap for myself.
Oh yeah, no, we'll fix it in
clap for you
post.
too. Yeah.
yeah. We'll
It made
add
me
it.
feel good to do that. So.
Yeah.
No, it's good to be in here, man. It's good to be back with y'all, dude, and talking. That's actually, you know what? This makes me really happy that you guys are doing this because every time I see one of those Justin Timberlake, it's going to be May memes, like I get jealous.
A little bit.
I get so jealous.
Understandably.
You know what I mean? So this helps.
Here it's going to be Maylene.
Lean.
Oh, yeah, we're busting it out again this year.
That's
Hell
we have to make
yeah.
our own like Church Jams meme.
I think we did. Didn't we
I've
do that
got it,
last year?
yeah.
That hijacks.
I think we already did that last
I'm
year.
planning to post it on April 30th.
I can't wait.
I don't know how
Hell
many years your podcast is going to go, but you've only got 2 more. It's going to be Maylene. May is
true.
ahead of you.
It's true.
Yeah.
We gotta stretch it
There's
Well,
out.
like
then,
no
then
more
we'll just have to
records.
switch to the band May, I guess.
Yeah.
Which won't be
there
as
you go.
exciting.
It's funny you say that. Not for the record, too, but Kelly Nunn, who was on record 3, his band is called Riot for Romance. They just played some shows with May.
Nice.
Oddly
Oh,
enough.
cool.
Nice.
Right on.
So
Time
you
is
should,
a flat circle, dude.
it's all
It's
all
connected.
connected.
So you should start a cover band. Wait, what was the name of the band again?
Riot for Romance.
All right, it should be
Oh.
Riot for Romans.
Right.
Oh,
you
there
should
it
cover
is.
their band.
Oh man, I had some Greeks are going to take that the wrong
Yeah,
way though,
oh, right.
and then it's going to be over.
true. You
We'll be
could
able to
never
play
tour
any shows in the
in
Mediterranean.
Italy. Yeah. No way. Don't even try it.
Oh man, this is getting off to a delightful start. I'm so excited. So Roman, we've interacted a little bit, but I missed your interview episode. Josh, what volume was that? Do you know off the top of your head?
50s, maybe?
It was 50s for sure.
Oh,
It was
cool.
probably
We're
56
so
or
professional here.
something, 56.
Yeah,
Could be
50,
knowing.
56 or something.
I'm going to say 57. 57
All
sounds
right,
right.
let's call it 57. So usually we start this part of the show with an origin story, but we already got to yours a little bit. So if people want to hear more about that, I recommend they go back and listen to volume, let's call it 57. Yeah.
Scroll until you see Roman's name.
yeah.
I think he's the only Roman that we've
That's true.
interviewed.
That's
So
true.
that'll be easy.
Oh, I was a little
We're
ahead.
rare.
It's
Yeah,
48.
there aren't a lot of us out
48.
there. It's,
There you
it's
go.
hard to
48.
find us. Yeah. Although there is a kid in Hawaii with literally my same name, just
weird.
randomly.
Weird.
Yeah.
It's all
And I
connected.
didn't. Yeah, it is. Time is a flat circle, dude.
It's
His
all
dad-
connected. It's all
It's all connected, man.
Uh,
By the way, I love that we're doing that. That is like literally top 3 TV shows for me all time.
Oh, hell
So-
yeah.
Nice.
Hell yeah, brother. Oh, before we continue, I don't know if Josh or TJ, if y'all, either of y'all want to keep track of this, but if you want to keep a Kylan Savage hell yeah, brother count for this episode, I feel
You
like it's going to
should
be
do
a
that,
lot.
yeah.
Is it
I shaved
as
I
a
shaved
result
my
of the
stash.
chops that you
Oh,
had?
yeah. No, I
yeah,
shaved
yeah.
them specifically for this. I've been
Oh, yeah.
saying hell yeah, brother all day. My wife has gone crazy.
Yeah, not just hell yeah, but like HAIL is how it's actually
hell
pronounced.
yeah. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
Like there's some. That's not sleet. That's hail, brother.
I'm actually
outta
gonna
here.
I'm gonna send in the chat something that I texted both of the guys today that I feel like you would appreciate. It's a screenshot, so you can't see it's a moving GIF. But for the listeners, it's basically Hulk Hogan playing guitar with
That's
hell
awesome.
yeah, brother. And I said all of my Maylene notes are basically this.
Yep. I use that GIF pretty regularly.
Oh, good.
I don't know
That's-
why, but it's like it's
Yeah.
it's in
It just speaks
rotation.
to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's an all-time GIF on its own. I mean,
Yeah.
just Hulk Hogan playing an
But-
American guitar with an American
Yeah,
flag
I mean
behind
this,
him.
but this is like this is the feeling in my soul whenever I listen to Maylene. So,
Oh, good.
in lieu of an origin story, Roman, I want to maybe
Yeah.
talk about. So last year we covered the first Maylene record. This time we're covering Maylene 2.
2.
And so I want to talk to you briefly about where were you at? Where was the band at going into recording this second record?
Take us there.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, so, we had just done a lot of touring for a band on their first record. I mean,
Right.
we were gone basically all of 2006, and we did like a throwdown tour, and then I want to say we did maybe our first like little headlining Southeast run somewhere in there. I may be wrong on that because of how long ago this was, but we came back and we came home after being on the road pretty much that whole year, which is where most of that record got written. Sort of hit the studio for a couple of weeks of pre-production. And you can kind of tell from some of the lyrics in there. I'm trying to think of one of the lyrics, like way out in the cold West, but I'm soaring home to Alabama. That's from literally being in like the hills out west somewhere where it's just freezing, and we were trying to write this record. So much of that record it's kind of funny because if you listen to the first record, you can tell most of that record, that's like a band's first album lyrically, musically too, because it literally was just personal experiences. It all kind of came together super fast. But this second record was like almost 2 years of riding on the road on a whole bunch of different experiences from that. And then it's also the first record that really nailed like the concept down of Maylene and the Sons of Disaster and like the Ma Barker story and the whole thing, the whole concept. So yeah, that's kind of how it went, until we got to the studio. Was a lot of that.
That's super cool. Josh, TJ, y'all have any other questions before we get into it?
Yeah, there's some like notes. I think that just goes into my notes of how y'all just changed so much. Like we talked about on the first record, how a lot of the songs are kind of linear, and there's a couple songs that have like your kind of just a lot of riffs and just kind of just starts A and then just goes to the end. But there's a couple songs that have that more like structure here, whereas this one is like all like structure. Like you have like discernible verses, choruses, and like it's so tight. But just like going from like, I don't know, was that a conscious decision of we're going to make some more traditional song structures on this next record?
Well, I think it was two things, So I sort of mentioned like we had written most of that record on the road. And when you get into the studio pre-production with Jason Elgin, what Jason did was he had this old furniture store that had like an huge upstairs apartment above it. It's a house. Cool. And his studio, this is the most Southern thing ever. His studio used to be the headquarters for the KKK in Birmingham. Yeah.
Some history there.
I know. Just crazy. And it was for sure haunted. Like for sure.
I mean, I
no
would expect it
asked.
to be.
Like, yeah, there was all sorts of stuff going on. Yeah. What happened is like, that was like over 100 years ago, right? And then somebody bought that building, turned it into a furniture store, and gave it like, a super long like display room area kind of, which was the downstairs part. And he turned most of that into storage and recording space. So we put our amps in a circle and put the drums like right in the middle of that. And for probably, I want to say at least 14 hours a day for 2 weeks, we hammered out all that music that we'd worked on for like a year and a half. Yeah. And nailed down, I forget how many songs are on this record. I don't even know because I haven't looked. But we nailed down all those songs in that time and then went right into tracking them.
Crazy.
And that's kind of how I got it all pieced together in an interesting way. Cool. But because of that, to answer your question, Josh, yeah, like, when you're like we had a little bit of momentum at that time, and a whole lot of interest from people. And we were drawing like our own crowds on the road doing all right for the first time as a band. And it kind of all happened really fast because we didn't start touring until I want to say fall of 2005. By the end of 2006, we could draw a few hundred kids on our own.
Nice.
And when you're doing something like that, there's pressure to make the next record like to deliver,
Right.
For
Well,
sure.
especially at that time, the way that music was being released and marketed, right? Like, that was the cycle that you existed in.
I mean, you think about 2004, 2005, and 2006, the band that Dallas was in, Under Oath, blew, through the roof, blew up. You know what I mean? They were so big. So we had attention from that. We had attention from what we sounded like. I think we had attention from the scene in general, just being enormous, and every band that we knew was blowing up, from the Showdown to Chasing Victory. All the bands that were like our size and kind of from our area, or from the South, were doing well with all of that. And we were touring with, like, we did our first tour ever that year with POD on a full US run. The Chariot was around and they were doing well. We toured with Throwdown that year. I mean, there was a lot going on, and there was pressure, I think, to make the record not just like that youthful kind of, like, how many different ways can you chug a D note?
Right. To like show up.
Right. Yeah. So there are definitely guitar parts and, songwriting structures that you just wouldn't find, on the first album. And somehow it worked, though. Like, somehow if you listen to one and listen to two, like, it carries over in the right way.
Sure.
And I think a lot of that is thanks to Josh Cornett, who wrote a lot of this stuff, and how him and our drummer Lee kind of meshed when they were working through ideas. Dallas kind of helping with that. I put my 2 cents in, and then we had Josh Williams and Scott, who were also good at contributing within that space. And so Jason Elgin took that and just kind of figured out, like, okay, I'm delegating that. Cornett, like, you're the band director, in this time.
Yeah.
Right. And so you take over and you direct the band on what's going to happen next and what the sound is going to be. I'll tell you, like, hey, here's where you should change it up and here's what you should do. Yeah. And those 2 weeks of pre-production, like, when you hear an artist talk about pre-production, if they don't do it right, you can hear it on the record.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
If their pre-production was like 5 days of, like, the producers sitting there with, like, a pen and, like, nodding their head to everything and going, yeah, that's great. Now say something about your ex-boyfriend. Like, you know what I mean? You can hear that. So this was totally different. This was like a growing up phase, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, and with the record, y'all were still, like, on mono versus stereo, but it also has like a Ferret label on there too. Like, were y'all, like, co-signed to Ferret, or was Ferret, like, buying y'all out?
No, so with mono versus stereo, we had a deal in place for the first record. I think the idea was that we were, because they had kind of committed to us prior to us signing anything, right? Well, we got the record funded under a deal with them and put it out before we signed a record deal with them. And that first record got us enough attention that we had offers from, like, a few major labels. We had some major labels that were interested in us already because of how everything was going for bands like us at the time. But then we had, like, Tooth and Nail and Ferret and some others interested. I don't know why we went with Ferret. I think it was probably because of Carl, who ran Ferret forever and started that label. I think he just communicated, like, their commitment to us at the time the best.
Cool.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, Ferret ended up being who we signed that whole deal with, and I don't think we even signed that. And honestly, I think they funded the record before we signed a deal as well. I can't remember exactly, but people were just willing to, like,
they were just giving you money,
$40,000 for a record.
They were into it.
Prettiest girls at the ball, man.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Sweet. Okay, so Josh, you want to give us some research, buddy?
I know.
You want to tell us about this record?
He kind of told
us
he
all.
did.
Yeah, he went through it. I feel like you're just kind of filling in the gaps at this point.
It's fine.
Josh.
Roman, you're more than welcome to take Josh's spot.
Yeah,
if you want.
please
just do that now.
No, is this going to be those? Is this like a Nardwar moment? Is that what's about to happen?
If only. When I say research, not to disparage Josh,
Wow, you're going to though.
No.
I'm basically just reading the liner notes of my
signed
Maylene CD.
Ooh,
I was going to say, Kylan,
signed.
you talk about how this is your favorite segment.
It is my favorite segment.
So
it is.
I don't know why you're like throwing a bunch of shade right now because I love this.
I don't know. I don't know.
Josh is on the spot.
I shaved my facial hair. I've got the chops. I've been listening to Maylene all day. I'm just riled up. Hell yeah, brother.
Spicy.
Yeah,
I get it.
Well,
he's ornery.
That's right. I'm ornery as hell.
There it is. Roman, I want to ask about the decision to use everyone's like full names in the liner notes. Like it's like middle names included. Like Roman Channing Haviland, Dallas Taliaferro Taylor. Like
I think it was
so
just
professional.
I honestly don't even know if that was intentional. I genuinely don't. I think it was just like I think it was just what bands did at the time, to make sure that like your whole name was on the thing. I don't even recall telling anybody from the label or that was involved in the like CD design my whole name. So
that's funny. No, I love
they must have asked somebody else.
Somebody knew it. Like, oh, it's Channing.
Yeah, I wish there was a better story about that. Like,
no, it always stood out to me. Like
Maylene
is just they're thorough. They're like they want everyone to know their full God-given names.
No, it ties into the whole like the lore and the mythos, right? Of y'all are some real Southern boys. Like
that's what it was.
You got to use your full name.
Say, you gotta
yes,
use your
sir.
full
Yes,
name.
ma'am.
You know what I mean?
It
was the family crest, and everybody brought theirs. And
with the full Christian name.
We made sure Ferret put that on there. The New Jersey boys. You gotta watch out for them.
I do on the topic of lore. Maybe before we dig into the research section, Josh, as a somewhat less initiated Maylene listener, Roman. And as far as the kind of the backstory and the information happening behind the scenes that a lot of probably bigger fans know that I admittedly don't know, I've never been clear on the whole Ma Barker thing. So if I could get it from the source, your version, your sort of elevator pitch version, I'd love to hear what's going on behind the scenes with that.
Yeah. The condensed version of that was Ma Barker. If you ever know about Ma Barker and the Sons of Disaster,
I know it's a crime family. That's literally all I know.
That they're a crime family, and they had these huge shootouts in Central Florida with the police. Well, they had one in particular. It's actually I don't know if this is accurate. Don't quote me on this. Okay. But I'm pretty sure
it's not like we're
Roman
recording
Haviland
this for the entire internet.
Goes on record.
I'm almost certain that there is a scene, I want to say in The Devil's Rejects, where they reenact a scene. They don't use, I don't think, the exact names, and it might not be The Devil's Rejects. I might be drawing a blank on that. But there is a movie where like
I think you're right. I think it's Devil's Rejects.
It's The Devil's Rejects. Okay. Yeah. And they had this huge shootout, eventually they all got killed. Right. But for a long time, Ma Barker was like the ringleader, their mother, and the sons would just go out and do the dirty work. Right. And she thought she was doing the work of God. Right. And so that story, Dallas had a lot of ties to that story because when he was growing up, one, it happened like right near where he grew up in Central Florida.
Okay.
The other thing is he would go to reenactments of that shootout as a kid. So he's got like a snow cone, right?
Just sitting there watching.
Just like watching a fake. It's fake, but like it's a shootout. Like, you know what I mean?
Eating his tiger's blood, man.
That's about as Southern as it gets. Yeah. Because I've been to like Civil War reenactments and stuff growing up. So I could relate.
Sure.
I think that whole idea of just when you think you're doing the work of God and you're not, really what you're doing, you're just hurting people. I think for some reason that whole tie-in kind of hit home in a way. And so we used that story. The way we got the name Maylene is it's a town in Alabama that I lived in at the time, literally called Maylene. And it just sounded better, rolled off the tongue a lot better than trying to like say Maul Barker.
Yeah.
And I don't think we could have even used it or something like that. So
yeah, well, and it makes it more like unique to you guys, right? Gives you more personality as a band.
Definitely. I mean, if you wanted to name a Southern metal band, you might want to figure out, like, I mean, you probably couldn't get any better than like naming it after a small town in Alabama that nobody knows.
Right. No, I mean, that's perfect.
Exactly.
Like a story of
and
like
some
a
weird
shootout.
crime
Like,
family. Yeah.
right.
Yeah, it's the perfect.
I love it.
The perfect combo.
That's as dirty Southern as it gets, literally. Like,
Right.
Hell yeah, brother.
I love it.
Hell yeah, brother.
All right, Josh, can you hit us with anything that we might have missed about this album?
For sure. Yeah. Thank you, TJ. That was very cool hearing that straight from Roman.
Yeah. Illuminating.
But yeah, we're talking about Maylene 2, Hold on My CD. That was released March 20, 2007. It's currently 17 years old. This is y'all's second LP like we talked about. On Mono versus Stereo and Ferret. Producer was Jason Elgin, who did y'all's first 3 records. Charts and performance, I found that this debuted at Billboard 200 on 156. And US Heat Seekers at number 3.
Yeah, top 200.
US Indie at 17. So y'all were hitting some good stuff there.
That's pretty sweet.
Wait, where else did we? Oh, US Indie.
Heat Seekers
Indie.
and Indie. You guys,
I
think of indie
I thought you said India, like just randomly.
Yeah.
I was like,
Billboard
we had
India.
how
Maylene
big
was
did we?
huge in India.
You guys
didn't
never
know?
toured?
Yeah.
Man,
I've always
you
wanted to
should've.
go to Dubai. Like,
Yeah, man.
like, come on.
Would have sold out a lot. Yeah,
No.
that's really all I got. But I want to mention specifically like the layout and design of the CD and the booklet is so cool. And then Kylan mentioned how y'all helped inspire the Bleeding Cowboys font, which if listeners haven't
so
listened
funny.
to that on the first Maylene episode, that one is great. But I also want to just hear more about the artwork and the photo shoot for it, because like this was like at the perfect time, like in 2007, where labels were, I feel like, putting a bunch of money into your booklets and your like your band photography and stuff like that, and you could just have like it's pages of just like shoots, and like y'all set this whole scene that was just like really perfect for the band. So I just want to hear more about shooting that and just the idea and everything that goes along with that.
Well, it's funny if you see all the photos from that time, everything that's in that booklet, any of our promo photos too. I don't know if there are, I can't remember if like we shot separate like magazine and, like internet news sites like for AP or something like that. I can't remember if we shot separate photos from that with the artwork for this, but Ryan Russell, who has been, especially at that time, was shooting, I feel like everybody. He had done some Death Cab for Cutie stuff. He'd done a ton of Paramore stuff. He was from Moody, Alabama, right next door to Birmingham, and grew up in Birmingham with all of us. So it just kind of all happened to be that like our band was doing well as he was doing well as a photographer as well. And so it was a natural fit for us to, just use him for those. But like that trailer and all the stuff that you see, like that was all just, I don't even know I don't know whose it is. I think we just pulled up there.
That's the most hillbilly shit I've ever heard. I love it.
It was just like off on the side of the road somewhere, literally that. It was just, it was just there. I don't even know whose land that was, but it wasn't far from the studio that we were at, And so we went out there with a makeup artist friend of ours who did like all the blood and the gunshot wound and all that. And we got dragged through that. It's funny. You mentioned Jason Elgin. Yeah. So right there, the guy in the blue coat who's pulling us out of the river, that's Jason Elgin, the guy who produced our record.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And then the guy in the white is a guy named Michael Swan, who he played guitar in a band called Wayne, who did pretty well. They toured with John Mayer for a bit and had a song on Smallville. They made a really great record, and he was like, that band was a part of like the 90s alternative scene. So it was all of that was pieced together. I think just randomly one day we went out.
Was he like buddies with one of y'all or with Jason? Or
Yeah, Michael Swan played. Actually, I think he played a little bit of slide on that record.
Oh, cool.
somewhere on 2.
That's great.
He might be in the liner notes somewhere in there. I can't remember who else was in that photo shoot, but it was people that were there. Jason's studio at that time was like a revolving door of probably the best rock musicians in Birmingham. When I say a revolving door, I just mean like there were 10 people that were good friends of his who were really good at it, who would show up all the time. I think actually Rodney Wayne Reeves, who was the singer of the band Wayne, was in that photo shoot as well. I think he's in there somewhere.
Okay.
And they're the like, makeshift sheriffs or whatever who are pulling us out of the river and like dragging our bodies,
And just a point of clarification, Roman, was that all happening at the same time as the music video was shot for Dry the River?
No. So
2 different sessions.
Totally different vibe. Really
Got
interesting. It. Yeah. So that happened, and like we did the photo shoot and all that. And then, for the music video for Dry the River, that was all done on a Hollywood film ranch.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you've ever gone to the like North Hollywood is like all hills and just open, big, hilly spaces where, there are these huge ranches that stretch out for miles, it seems like,
right,
with these enormous mountains on the side of them. And so film companies will own them. Disney actually owns a whole lot of ranch space where what they do is they actually station like animals for their safari out there. And that's where they keep them in like a open wild zoo format. So you can go out there and drive like all those roads, and there's like lions and giraffes and all this like random stuff. Yeah.
This is the hard-hitting information people are coming to Church Jams now for, by the way. This is nuts.
Yeah. So yeah, cool. I don't remember who directed that video, but I think he went on to work in TV for a while.
Because y'all talked about this a little bit in your interview. Yeah. There's some connection to Arrested Development, which is why I did that. I made that whole video that took way more time than I anticipated, where I put all of y'all in the Arrested Development.
The faces on everybody. That was so good. Oh man, I need to
recirculate.
I need you to show me how to do that.
That spent. I took way more time doing that than I have done, with most of my job in the last 2 years.
But listen, Kylan, you needed to make that video to prove to everybody that time is a flat circle.
It's all connected. It's all connected. Okay.
It's all connected, brother.
I do want to move on because I want to get to the record.
I think we
gotta do it.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. Josh and TJ, I want to hear about your connection to this record. Let's start with TJ.
Okay. Maylene was one of those bands that like I was always kind of like aware of and knew, but I never like really sunk
cool
my
enough.
Teeth. I wasn't cool enough. That's right.
No.
That's exactly correct. I never sunk my teeth fully into like the albums from front to back.
Right. And your band played enough shows with Del Sur that you're like, yep, I get it.
I get it. Exactly. I understood the concept. No. You probably were my closest like touch point for Maylene, Kylan. Between you and a couple other friends that listen to a little more of that kind of Southern metal and like hardcore stuff, I was. It was more like, oh, Maylene's on, I'm hanging out with Kylan, of course. And so I've got like this association with like really sweet moments with friends, like around college, kind of like freshman, sophomore year mostly, which is really cool that I can kind of cite a time and a place and a season of life, and Maylene kind of like brings me back there. And man, digging back into this record, I'll just say kind of a general thought, like I'm a vibe guy. Like I'm just gonna set that there.
Maylene's a vibe band.
I'm a vibe guy today, you guys.
Yeah.
So
hell yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's fun. I was listening to this record today and I decided to play it over our speakers in the house, and we were eating breakfast and my 3-year-old was just like running around and I was like, "Hey, Willow, do you want to know what the inside of your daddy's brain sounded like when he was 21? She's like, yeah. And then I just started, I blasted Raised by the Tide, and and she lost her mind. This totally got the Willow June headbang of approval.
Yes.
There's no higher honor.
It's the highest
No,
honor.
that is for the heavy records that we cover, I always run them past Willow. And this one got the highest honor. She started going, like
rock fist.
It's like, is this mosh pit music? I'm like, hell yeah, it is.
That's so cool. Dude, in like 20 years, she'll be able to make like an complete AI remake of that record.
Totally.
It's going to be great.
Totally.
It's going to be so awesome.
Oh,
She'll get like a whole $5 in streaming royalties when it has like 50 million spins.
Yeah.
Okay, Josh, I want to hear about you. What's your deal?
Man, I have to try to be brief whenever I talk about Maylene.
Same.
So,
that's why I've gone into like full interviewer mode, because otherwise I'm just gonna be like, oh yeah, this is fucking great. Like, yeah, let's just talk about how great this is. Like,
Yes.
I'm just with my buddies at the bar. Like,
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah, I may have mentioned it before on one of or both of our Maylene episodes, but saw y'all play at Red Letter Rock Fest in Snyder, Texas.
Oh yeah.
And immediately when purchased this CD, got Dallas and Matt to sign it, which is great. And then started listening to the first two records. But oddly, it wasn't until 3 came out that, like, I liked Maylene, but when 3 came out, it just, like, hit me. And it, like, unlocked me just, like, really loving even the first two records even more. And so 2 has always been my favorite Maylene record.
It's the best.
It's the best.
Mine
Like,
too.
one of my notes for my overall notes is, like, I probably could have written almost all my notes without even listening to this record. Like, I've listened to it so many times in my life.
Same.
And yeah, it's just, I have so many memories from way back in the day, but even listening to it like more recently. And we started a whole band basically because of this album and
because of how rad this fucking album was.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
we're just like, hey, let's do this.
I want to do this. I can play.
This genre's dying. Let's go for it.
It was still kind of around, but it was definitely on its way out whenever we were doing our thing. So that's that's my brief history. Does that sum up, Kylan?
Yeah, I think so. I think
cool.
that's great. So I will also say briefly, I think I talked about in our first Maylene episode, I was such an emo hipster music snob when the first Maylene record came out.
And we turned you.
No, when the first one came out, I was like, what is this fucking hillbilly metal? This is stupid. And then by the time like I got to college and Josh was like, I think I want to start a Southern metal band. Me. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I remember like Maylene, that's like a Southern metal band. And I started playing 2 a lot. And I was like, oh, hell yeah, I get it. I get it. Hell yeah, brother. Like, I'm here for this. Like I have very specific, like sense memories when I hear specific songs from this of driving on specific highways in the DFW Metroplex. Like, in the middle of summer, hot as shit, just wearing, like, a tank top and cutoffs, like, with the windows down. Oh, it's incredible. I'm so excited.
Yeah, this 2 is hands down of all the Maylene records. 2 is the best to listen to while driving. There's no question about that.
Oh, yeah.
It's the best driving record.
So,
absolutely.
The thing is too, what's really interesting to me is like, I love, like, 1 has a really raw energy. 2 is like that sort of refined, and 3 is really good, but it's a lot, like, the production value is so much higher.
Yeah.
That it's almost kind of a different thing.
It almost is, yeah.
It's like, but 2 is like The Empire Strikes Back, man. It's like, it's like, okay, let's build upon what was great about the first.
Everything
but
you loved about the first one, turned up.
Yeah. Kiss Me.
What?
Kiss me.
No, that's a kid's room.
Oh, we're not talking about Sixpence None the Richer's anniversary CD and vinyl?
We could.
And if you want to.
That's called hijacking an ad, guys.
Wow. 2 ads for the price of 1. No, I want to talk to you guys about one of my favorite artists and a release that Kyle and I have been chatting about this past weekend. But Dustin Kensrue's Desert Dreaming is foray into country music, if you will.
Well,
Kylan maybe won't for other reasons that we've discussed, not at length, but we need to discuss soon on this show.
Yeah. We'll talk about it. But Dustin Kensrue's new album, Desert Dreaming,
which I am thoroughly enjoying. And can I just say, as someone who has the vinyl, it is a beautiful vinyl record. The artwork on it is great.
And it's double-sided,
It's
right?
reversible. Yeah, so the cover is the night version of the artwork, and then you flip it over, it's the day version, which is great. So you can kind of, whatever you're feeling, if you're feeling like a day, feeling like a night, just however you want to display it. So it's a great vinyl package. The lyrics, and they got like little symbols for each record and everything like that. So I've been really enjoying it. But you know what's even greater than just that record?
What?
Let me guess, paying full price.
Well, I mean, you can to support Dustin. I support him. He's a great guy.
Look, I've got 6 pence. I'm none the richer, Josh. So,
well, if you only have 6 pence, that may be enough to get this record with our exclusive discount code.
Oh, what is it?
Well, to get that, you just use your fingers. Is that right?
Hashtag use your fingers.
Use your fingers. And go to CollideRecords.com and enter in Church Jams Now, all one word, at checkout. And you'll get 20% off. And you can bring home your own copy of Desert Dreaming CD or vinyl, or some of Dustin's other stuff, whether it's his solo stuff or in thrice, to your home, shipped quickly and carefully from CollideRecords.com.
That's right. And guys, all joking aside, go listen to Desert Dreaming and buy it because it's really good. I have some nitpicks because I'm a country music nerd, but if it gets anyone into country music, that's a win in my book.
Okay.
So go to colliderecords.com, buy Desert Dreaming, and type in Church Jams Now at checkout for 20% off.
Jammers out there, if you're listening to this show and you want to support Church Jams Now, a great way to do that is to just get on your podcast listening app of choice and rate and review us. And you know what? We've had a couple new reviews lately. 5 stars, I might add. If that's not, is that a brag? Is that a brag?
It is.
It
is.
Okay. It's a humble brag.
Okay,
but it's okay.
Is. I mean, but it's also true. So,
right.
I thought I would take this moment to read one of them to y'all, if you want to hear it.
Please.
Let's hear it, man.
This
Gas
review,
us up.
Yeah. This review is from Blue Cadet. The review goes, love this show. They go track by track through some of my favorite albums from the good old days of Christian music. Even better when they have guests from those albums. I will agree, it is even better when we have guests from those albums as well.
Yeah,
100%.
Same.
Yeah, for sure. That's our favorite thing. But you know what? Yep. Our second favorite thing is getting 5-star reviews from listeners like you out there. So thank you for leaving that 5-star review. And if you want to hear your review read on the show, leave us a 5-star review. Even if you don't leave a 5-star review, we might still read it. But.
Yeah. No, it's very true. It's either 5 or 1, man.
No in between.
Yeah, no middling.
No.
Well, I respect that people know what they're about. They're either like super into us and they let us know, or they're not and they let us know.
Yep.
So if you like that review, you can leave one of your own and then we can read it.
Okay. So should we get right into it? Should we go?
Let's do it.
All right. Let's go track by track because I'm so freaking excited. Let's start with track number 1, Memories of the Grove. More records should start with drums.
Yeah, start them all with drums.
Agreed.
Well, and then the way that like we just rip straight into a guitar. So like I feel like that really sets the scene as like the Maylene that we were on the first record. It's like we're this Maylene now. Like I love that's a great way to just start the record off.
Well, like the first record, kicks in with Caution. And we were like, we're not going to match that intensity like with anything else without being obvious. So like, how do we match the intensity without being as obvious? The main way was like, just get some big drums in there. Big drums, riff, guitar solo. Dallas starts screaming, like, let's do it.
That's all you need.
This might, Josh, I don't know if we talk about in our end of the year wrap ups, but we should start talking about my favorite opening tracks of albums throughout the year. Because so far this year, this is my favorite opening track. I'm going to be super biased. Wow. This record fucking rocks, guys. It just rips so hard. This is so good. It just it doesn't try to be Caution 2.0, right? Mm-hmm. It's its own thing, but it's a very specific statement of where you guys are at as a band.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. Over the year and a half that it took to write this record, I don't really know how we figured it out, but I think mostly there was just a point where we sort of understood. I think we understood what we were doing. I don't think we knew that during the first record at all. Right. I think we had an idea, but you can't refine something until you put it
right. Well, until you get that first thing out.
It looks like out in the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with this record. I mean, we saw people responded to the first album. We were like, well, I think we know what this is now. And so it just kind of naturally progressed into, yeah.
That's interesting that you let the crowd response help inform the next record in that way. Because I know that's kind of like a thing that certain artists sort of intentionally reject that idea because for them, right, it maybe is going to actually detract from the work. But in y'all's case, obviously it was like the right move. You needed to find out what are people going to respond to and what does that make us want to make,
Right. Yeah. I think what happens is so like, a good example of what you're talking about is Radiohead when they made the jump to Kid A.
Right. Right.
It was out of nowhere. Nobody saw that coming. And, they just kind of did something that they felt like they wanted to do, which is totally fine. But, I think for us, what it was, we saw that people were having fun to this music.
Totally.
That didn't make us sit back and go, well, we got to write more stuff that kids can sing to, or that people can like mosh to breakdowns to. We just it energized us to write a better version of what we had done before.
It was like a crucible. It was part of the process.
Yeah. And we had stuff that we wanted to do. We wanted more singing. For instance, this record has, I think it's got to be, I don't know, 50% more, 60% more singing.
Yeah, it's
on the
very
whole
melodic.
Record.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a lot more.
Which is cool.
Yeah, and so that stuff sort of naturally happened, because we were getting such a good response out on the road to our first record. Mm-hmm. We were like, well, this is fun. Like, if it's going to be like this, we might as well do it right, And that kind of led to those writing sessions. We had one in San Francisco where we wrote "Dry the River," and it was basically all pieced together in Cornet's mind before we got into the rehearsal space. And then another way that we wrote a lot of this record is we had a 15 passenger van at the time with like these beds in the back. So we literally would just take out one of those benches, and we had like mini amps like that were battery powered. And so we would just sit in a circle in the van. Whoever was driving had to vocally give their input, and we would write songs like that on top of 2 or 3 sleeping bags when we're driving through, the desert or wherever,
Right.
And that sort of atmosphere kind of informed the record in its own strange way too.
Oh,
you can kind of hear that a little bit.
Yeah, it's cool to hear that it was kind of initially a road record, because knowing that, it makes so much sense listening back to it.
You can hear it. Yeah, I think you can hear it in there. It's what's funny about that is you're right in the sense that sometimes when bands make the jump to the second record, it doesn't match up. whenever they're kind of in a certain headspace and stuff. For us, it was just all a natural progression, and it somehow worked between those two records. So it's cool that it did. It was a whirlwind, right? Like so much of it feels like it happened all in a flash,
Right.
And you're still piecing. If you're me, you're still piecing together memories of how it all went down. But
okay, I gotta know, Roman. Did y'all have the Whisper Bridge originally when the song existed on the road? Or was that something that came later? Because that's my favorite part of the song. I think I love it because it's just such a curveball, and it's the best,
dude. That's the brilliance of like being in a real studio, making a real record. You know what I mean? There's so much effort that you have to put into everything that at some point it just gets weird, and you're just like, they're like, what do you want to do here? Well, all right, let's start with some whispers.
Yes.
We're going to do...
Well, that's the thing. The instinct of, let's start with some whispers is wild as hell.
Yeah.
It's the best
Southern metal band. Let's whisper.
Whispers. We're also going to put a weird haunted like AM radio sound behind that.
Yeah. I love
then
it.
We're going to go... Right. Then it's like, all right, and then we're going to go back into a riff, and then we're going to stop, and we're going to do like a weird choir buildup thing, and then we're gonna go break down. Like it sounds like the dumbest thing in the world when I just say it out loud. You know what I mean? But
if
at the time, it was just fun. It was kind of I think the whispers were one of those like we've been in the studio till 1 a.m. with very little water and food. Kind of thing. It's just like,
and that's how you get the whispers.
Sweating, right? And that's how you end up there. It's in a haunted old studio in Tarrant, Alabama,
old KKK headquarters,
and you're all feeling a little underfed and loopy.
Yeah,
let's whisper now, guys.
Very little sleep.
It'll work, trust me.
And it did.
So funny.
It did. No, it's such a weird choice, but it's great.
Well, are there any other memories of the Grove that you want to talk about, Roman? If not, we'll move on.
No, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but
I've got a lyric question.
Ooh.
What is a brick walker? Who is the brick walker?
Oh man, I'm glad you asked that because I was trying to think of that today. I honestly don't know if I ever got a straight answer out of Dallas of what a brick walker was. You know what I mean?
Just something that's rad as hell, brother.
Just sounds cool.
It does sound cool.
Yeah, it does. I can't even remember. But that's why Dallas was so good at what he did. Like whatever was in his mind that a person was, he could relate that to a story.
Such a vibe.
Yeah.
Right.
He clearly had like a story in his head, like for all of this,
Yep.
But as far as externalizing that, we got to get to the bottom of it, man. Maybe we'll have a follow-up episode and learn more.
Maybe. Okay, guys, before we move on to track number 2, I just have a brief aside that I have to do. So last year, for our first Maylene episode, we had Josh's cousin, Zach, on the show, and he's a huge Maylene fan. And so we're actually recording this on his birthday. So I reached out to him, asked him if he wanted to say hey to Roman. So we got him on for just a second so we can wish him happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Zach. Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you in a classroom right now? What are you doing?
I am not. This is my office. This is my office right now. Yeah. So,
dude, you should put some lights behind that thing. Light it up.
Roman, I have this sign here right next to me.
Look at that.
That's how big of a fan I am.
That's awesome.
Sweet. Zach, am I officially cooler than your cousin now?
Dang.
You are
What a setup.
Wow.
Josh, you dropped the ball hard.
Dang.
It's Zach's birthday.
Just showing me up on
so
a podcast with my cousin here.
Yeah, dude.
Dang, happy birthday.
I just had to show you up. This is a 2-for-1 for me, man. Like, I get to embarrass Josh, and I get to give Zach
and do something. Yeah,
cool
sweet ass birthday present.
And Roman gets to hear from a fan. I mean, it's like a win-win-win.
Huge fan. I'm upset.
Every day of my life, dude.
I'm upset
I'm the beautiful
because,
producer now.
because I can't go to the concert in Dallas on April 28th. I was so excited.
Wow, yeah.
Josh texted me. He's like, Maylene's going to be in town. And I'm like, oh, I can't even go to it.
I'm glad you asked the Brickwalker question, TJ, because I remember Zach way back in the day being like, what is Dallas talking about? I'm like, I don't know, man. It's a vibe. Like, I have no idea. But Zach wanted to get to the bottom of it. I was like,
Zach, you and me, man. You and me. We're trying to like suss it out.
Somebody's got to get to that show and ask him.
Yes.
Somebody's got to do that. See, you can follow up.
Oh, man.
You know,
this is my dude.
yeah.
Josh,
I forget that they're
homework.
doing. I saw that they were doing a tour, but I totally forgot about it. But that's cool that they're going to be in Dallas. That Dallas, Texas shows, like any Texas show, was always that was the craziest thing ever.
Huge.
Hell yeah, bro.
You know, yeah, always. People backflipping off of balconies and like. You know, there was always an ambulance that needed to be called for something.
That was probably all Zach, if we're being honest.
Probably was.
It was Zach.
Sweet. Well, Zach, as a friend of Church James Now, we just wanted to wish you a happy birthday. And, and let you join in for a hot second. But
happy birthday, Zach.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Happy
Roman.
birthday, Zach.
I love seeing the content with you back in the day. I remember talking to Josh being like, dude, that guitar player is pretty crazy.
They all are.
All right. Well,
ain't
Zach,
nothing changed.
Yeah.
I mean,
all right. Well, we'll let you go. We're going to get back to the show.
Yeah, looking forward to the episode. Let me know whenever it comes out.
Hell yeah,
All right.
brother.
Maylene.
Maylene.
Later, guys.
Later, man.
yeah. Later.
Nice. Very nice, Caroline.
That's great.
Thank you guys. I don't know.
That's the best.
That's funny.
I don't think we've ever had like a birthday surprise on an episode.
No.
That's really cool.
Because no one's cared.
But you did.
But I did.
What was funny is that Colin got like real serious for a second. And I wasn't sure.
Yeah,
I
me
was
neither.
like,
guys,
is this going to be like a?
What's happening?
I was like, are we going to talk about like what cancer organization are we trying to get like funds for? Like,
we're going to get real for a second, guys. No, you know what we're going to do right now? Much like how... Oh, God, I already fucked it up. I was going to say the transition between tracks 1 and 2 were so good, I'm going to do the same thing. Here's track 2.
Totally, man. You totally did it.
Oh, hey, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Dry the River.
Well, we didn't even talk about that transition.
Look at that. Another song that starts with drums.
That transition is so good.
Great.
Okay, I have a question, and I want to know Roman's take on here. But what do you think is the most iconic Maylene riff? If you can pick one.
Oh, man.
Or if you have a couple that you're between, but like...
And why is it
when
this one?
When I ask you, what comes to mind?
I think that song is a very close second, but I think that probably the most well-known riff is "Step Up" from 3.
Okay,
yeah,
that opening slide part, that's probably the one everybody knows, and then the second one is that one, which is I told you I think on the last podcast that we were way more influenced by classic rock than anything else.
Yeah.
That was like, I think, our attempt at whatever we could get from GNR.
Yeah, I was going to say, it feels so Guns N' Roses. Like, and the drums, like the drum production, I'd love to know about that because that feels very classic rock, feels very like stadium or like empty warehouse or something. Like, was that in the big furniture space?
It was.
Is that where those drums were tracked?
Yeah, and those drums were... it was the first time the first record we used a like a nice drum kit. It was like a high-end recording kit that was from, I think it was an old Rogers kit that was just in good shape.
Nice. I got a Rogers snare. That's
They
make good stuff, man.
They do make some good stuff. Yes. And that's why the drums sound good on that record. But with this record, Tama had just released the Bubingas, I believe. And somebody got us a a set of those to record on because I don't think we could have bought them at the time. I think they were like 12 grand or something.
Yeah,
I think they
right.
might still be actually.
Jeez.
They might be even more. So somebody came in and brought us a kit to use just for that record, and those drums sounded huge in that space. Yeah, Jason set up like a platform downstairs for the drummer to record those on, for Lee, our drummer, to record those on. And he crushed it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And they just sound huge. Like you hear the space just as much as you hear the drums, which can be, I feel like can be a problem sometimes, or it can work immaculately. And in this case, it was perfect.
What fascinated me too about the production of this record is your playing, Roman. Like you did this like perfect thing of locking in with the drums and the guitar. Like you were so like that bridge can like very easily be overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
But it blended them perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that is because, there's two things in that. You're playing on the road, and when you're playing on the road, you kind of get sick of just, I don't know, like open D and like just boom, boom, boom all the time.
Same old. Yeah.
You want to learn how to like play a little more.
Right.
So I had started learning like some pentatonic scales, and then Corna and Jason Elgin like gave perfect direction on writing all those bass parts. Corna actually played, I can't remember what bass part he played, but he played a bass part on there. It actually sounds kind of like a guitar, but it's just low enough that you can hear that it's the bass. Yeah, I mean, we kind of just meshed it all together the right way at the time. But what stands out, the biggest thing is like those drums are huge and the guitar is really huge. So anything else like guitar layers, even vocals had to fit within that space because that was going to make the record sound like it was going to.
Right. It works, man. It all worked together in concert.
Works.
Works.
Yeah, it does. It's almost like you guys are a good band or something.
I wrote, one of my notes is, I mean, this is like a perfect song. Like,
okay, what else can I say? This is as good a point as any to bring in. We have a couple of sound effects that we use on the show. I thought we were going
to get another guest.
Yeah, no.
What if every song? He was like,
every song. Here's someone new,
a new guy.
Now it's time to bring in my cousin Vinny.
I was trying to compile my notes for this record, but this is such a personal record for me, and it's such a vibe record. It was really hard to write notes. So instead, what I did is I went online and I found a website that has a soundboard, a very specific soundboard with some sound effects that I think can perfectly encapsulate how I feel about each of these songs.
We're becoming more Shock Jock.
Hell yeah!
We're becoming more Shock Jock with every episode, man.
It was inevitable.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell
yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, brother.
Colin, email me that soundboard, dude.
Okay, I'll send you guys a link. It's incredible. It's literally
the podcast is paused until Colin emails me that soundboard.
Hold on. I'll send the link in the chat
for the sound bites.
It's literally a hell yeah soundboard.
That's so good.
Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Just an endless set of. That's great.
Anyone that's ever said it is on.
Do you guys watch wrestling at all these days? Did y'all see like WrestleMania?
I didn't catch this WrestleMania, but I have gone to see WrestleMania a few times.
It was you guys know my God, there's so many of them.
That makes sense though.
Yeah.
There's an InfoWars. There's an InfoWars hell yeah on there. There's a Chappelle show, hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
The fact that someone compiled all these is
why
we have the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hell yeah.
What was that one?
Oh, hell yeah.
That's amazing.
Oh man.
And I feel like this all perfectly encapsulates how I feel about this record. I will say also, this is my favorite song on the record.
I was gonna ask.
And not to spoil if we do a Maylene Bop 10, but this is my favorite Maylene song of all time.
Of all time. Wow.
I mean, it's a perfect song, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
pretty
Give me
great.
a hell yeah.
Hell yeah. It's just natural.
It
If you
is.
hear Stone
Yeah.
Cold do that, like it doesn't matter where you are or
Right.
who you're with, you're going to do. It's
You
just
do
like
it.
it just comes out of you. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, brother.
I do want to talk about the key change in this song, though.
Josh is
'Cause-
bringing us back into.
Let's talk about all of it,
some
'cause
Let's talk
all I'm
about
gonna
all of it.
say is just
acceptable
hell yeah,
podcast
I
brother.
can't
level.
wait. I can't wait because I love it because I don't think y'all do it in any other songs, and it's especially like in metal and this like kind of scene. A key change is not a very common thing, at least like a very pronounced key change like this.
No, but it goes back to what Roman has said before of like the classic rock influence.
I was about to say, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was not common in like hardcore or metal at all at the time for sure. But nobody that we toured with or that was like in the scene that we were aware of at the time was doing like specifically trying to make like a rock version of whatever the metal hardcore scene was, you know. So we didn't have a lot of like all of our metal reference on influence was prior to 2004, I think, probably, you know, and
Right.
and everything after that was like what we listened to driving on the road, which was almost all some version of classic rock, you know, or the music that we grew up with, like that we were influenced by growing up. And that has a ton, like all the country stuff and classic rock stuff has key changes everywhere. I can't remember what classic rock song it is, but it has 5 key changes in it.
It's a lot. It's probably a Meatloaf song or something.
Hell yeah.
I knew Roman would get as much of a kick out of this as I did.
Oh man. But yeah, especially whenever you drop back to the original key, and I don't know if Lee goes to like a halftime or something, but that part feels so huge when that
it's so
happens,
good.
and it's
So good.
extremely effective.
Just good direction, you know. It was kind of it's interesting that Jason Elgin and Corna meshed so well together with Dallas. I think you know, they were kind of the ringleaders of making that record. It takes a really brilliant mind, I guess, to be able to understand the natural progression between like what 1 and 2 were, and somehow they just had that in their head. So, you know, how key changes, you know, whispers.
Yeah, you get experimental
All
here.
the finessing. You gotta
Yeah.
have it.
Absolutely.
I love
Well,
it.
okay, guys. Much like this podcast, and the points that we have made, they have been plenty strong and plenty wrong. Here's track number 3, Plenty Strong and Plenty Wrong.
Up in a second place. This all is right where it needs to be. It's not a static pace, just a little kick in the air. This isn't what I expected. I was letting you down.
I saw this has a IMDb credit for Sons of Anarchy. This is on like the pilot.
That's right.
Oh, that's cool.
It's actually, if you ever watch the first Sons of Anarchy episode ever, the rivals to Sons of Anarchy at the beginning of the movie, I forget or beginning of that show, I forget their names.
The daughters of Law and Order.
Of order,
robbing-
yeah.
they're robbing their gun stock in this warehouse, like off some beaten road or something. And when the guy pulls up in a truck, he changes to this song while he's like waiting to be the like getaway vehicle, which is
That's
interesting.
rad.
It's a great
Yeah.
getaway track.
Yeah,
I'd listen to
Baby
this if I
Driver
was
would
the
approve.
driver.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
If I was a daughter of Law and Order, I'd totally listen to this track all the time. This song is rad too. God, this record is just all right. I'm just gonna leave now. I'll just listen to the rest of the episode. I have
This is
nothing
fun for me 'cause
critical to say.
I don't even, it's funny because I haven't looked in a long time at like the track listing, so I don't know what song's next. And
Oh, that's fun.
I'm
this is
actually
real
really excited
fun.
to hear like what you're excited about.
It's like, ooh, what's coming next?
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, brother.
Well, I'll just pop in and say I think this might be my favorite track on the record.
Ooh,
Ooh,
fun.
why is that, TJ?
Why?
It's a big step.
Because it's like a straight ahead rocker, but it still has that twang and that like southern element. And so I think it's like a gateway drug into Maylene, if you will.
Right. And you're a huge Sons of Anarchy fan.
That's the main thing, is that I'm just massively into Sons of Anarchy, a show that I've never seen more than a trailer of.
You love Charlie Hunnam. Come on, don't lie.
You got me.
It's funny that you say that. The only reason I even know that song was on the show is because like 4 or 5 years after the show ended, I became such a huge fan that I watched the whole season, like back to back, like all 7 seasons back to back with each other.
Did you have that Leonardo DiCaprio Once Upon a Time in Hollywood meme moment? Like where you heard this song and you're like pointing at the TV, you're like, I know this song.
Wait a minute. That's me.
That's funny. I mean, oh man, if you, TJ, I'm not trying to turn you into a Sons of Anarchy fan or anything like that.
But you should.
But if you watch that show long enough, it is not just about biker gangs.
What's it about, Roman? Boil it down for me.
It's about strategy. The whole show is strategy. And if you can wrap your mind around that, it gets really interesting. Because you're interested to see like what they do next, you know?
There's always something underneath, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's the thing that they grab you with, but you stick around for the strategy.
You stick around for the strategy.
Come for the biker
Come
gang
for the bikes.
aesthetic. Yep. Stick around for the strategy.
Yeah. I'm weird. I mean, yeah.
Record drops.
I'm weird like that. Some people probably get a show right away. I don't. I'm always looking for like, why does this interest me? You know, and I got it by like episode 5 of the first time I watched a whole season all the way through, and I was hooked.
Sometimes it takes settling in, right, before it kind of washes over you. I'm curious. I like some of the lyrics on this one, and you know, we might be 0 for 2, Roman. I know I asked about a lyric earlier and we didn't have an answer. That's okay. If that happens again, that's fine. But I like kind of the way this song opens. I think that's another reason I like this track is because it draws me in, but it's very mysterious and I really don't get it. And it's a vibe. Like I said, I'm vibing on this record, but I still I'm curious about it. So I'm going to read some of these lyrics and you tell me if you have any idea what's going on here.
Okay. All right.
And it's okay if we all just, you know, have a big goose egg on the board at the end of it. But coming back after a long time gone, I'm just another walking dead. Deadlines tell me to write, and it feels so cold at home. Everyone has learned to live without me.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Because, like, it's meta, right? On a certain level. Deadlines tell me to write. Like, was there some pressure that he was feeling, you know, to like get to crank out the material?
I think that was a part of it. Yeah. And I think that's where that line sort of comes from, because what we would do, like once you have the songs, you know, the way Jason would make a record, like he would start with scratch tracks on guitar and then they would do drums and then they would do bass. And then it's weeks of guitar stuff. I mean,
wow,
2 or 3 weeks of guitar stuff, right? And everything just kind of learned to fit into that rhythm section space somehow. And it's easy when you've done 2 weeks of pre-production and you figure out what songs are going to be what, you know. But Dallas was writing lyrics and trying to come up with ideas during that pre-production time, and then I can't remember specifically how much he got done during the like actual tracking portion of the record, but a lot of that stuff, a lot of lyrics would get written really as we were recording vocals.
Pretty cool. Down to the wire.
Down to the wire, because
Crazy.
Like the ideas just don't hit until they do. And it comes from, you know, it comes from writing a ton of stuff on paper and scratching and writing tons of stuff on paper and scratching. You're trying to, you know, especially when you make a record in a studio and like that's all you're doing with your time versus kind of the way records are made now, where people send each other stuff over the internet, and like somebody sends a vocal part from East Boga, Alabama to Portland,
to India.
you know what I mean? Yeah, to India. Yeah. And there's like no communication when you're in there together and everything's stirred all together, which is the part that I still carry with me. One of the reasons I love studios, radio studios, music studios, any of that is because of what it was like to make these records. I just enjoyed being in there, working on that stuff, listening to the ideas. And I enjoyed the work of trying to figure out how to get that creative part out of you. I didn't learn it quite as well as I know it now, now that I'm in my late 30s and I like live in Nashville. But back then, that's how it was. And it always felt interesting. It felt like you were actually piecing together something that, it felt like you were doing something in the world, I guess, in a sense. Right.
For sure.
And you felt the energy of trying to get people to, or what people might think of it when they actually hear it. Because when you hear the first time that you hear a song that you've been working on for, months to a year, pieced together on a record, the way that these were, like it's mind blowing if it's good.
Yeah.
Like if it's good, your head's spinning because you can't believe how good that sounds,
Because so much had to go right, for it to land like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, some artists, I guess, can go in and make like the best record of all time in 3 weeks. They just have that, right? Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Like, there's a story of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. They were playing in a practice room, preparing to make one of their records, and the producer walks in and he's like, "Okay, we're gonna mic your amps in here. The record's ready to go."
This
and he
is
was
it.
right. Yeah.
Amazing.
And next you get like American Girl and everything else, right? That's just how that was back then. But like for us, it was a process, and the lyrics were the same way. So I think that's where the Deadlines idea comes from.
Yeah.
On all of that. Yeah.
That makes sense. But it definitely mirrors the energy of the music, like they pair well together. And I think that's what makes the song work for me quite a bit.
Yeah. And the Deadlines, and the Deadlines line, and then It Feels So Cold at Home. So for some stupid reason, Southern rock band, we would always record our records in the colder months. We always ended up recording in like the winter in Alabama, which were not cold winters by any normal standard. I mean, they were, like 50s, but to us it was cold. To Dallas, it would have been really cold because he's used to Florida weather. And we hated that part of it. We never enjoyed the cold, didn't enjoy touring in it or any of that. So that's probably where that line comes from, which is really simple, but it was also really personal to him and the story at the moment. So.
And it's relatable. Like anybody can kind of relate to that experience.
And you can interpret that like metaphorically or just literally.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it was both.
Or both.
I think it really was genuinely. Because, the last line, everybody's learned to live without me. I remember like the first time that we had time at home from the road after the first record was when we were recording this record, because it typically took like 2 or 3 months. When you're doing that, like you're not playing, you can't do a 30-day run. Obviously, you're recording a record. So we would just play spot dates and then we'd be back. We might go do like 4 shows around the Southeast or something and come back. If we even did that during this record, I can't remember specifically, but that's when you're like all the problems of you being gone and being away from home for that long, the way we had to back then, because the families couldn't come out with us in our 15 passenger van and 8,000 pound trailer. And, we made no money as a band. Like this is how it was back then. So, all that kind of boils up into that. And then you go from that to working 14-hour days in the studio, and that's the only place you want to be anyway. And so that's what a lot of that was about. It all kind of culminated into one story.
Yeah. Makes sense. That's cool.
Josh, I know you had something on this song you wanted to talk about.
Well, I just wanted to join TJ that this is also my favorite song.
Whoa,
Josh, what's up,
all
dude?
right. Hey,
It
we're
is-
all side A boys.
Oh man, the side A's this record is just so good. But I just want to mention this guitar solo on this song is so good, and like TJ mentioned, like it's just such a it's maybe the poppiest song on the record. You could argue.
Sure, yeah.
Which I feel like I picked a lot
Absolutely.
of the poppiest songs on some of the recent records we've covered. I don't know what that says about me. I'm losing my
I do.
my heavy cred, but but this one is just so good.
It's also the easiest to play, oddly enough.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I love in the first verse that, and this is something I want to talk about on some later songs, but like it's just like open chords, and then like you kind of switch it up for the second verse, and it's just like just a fun quick hitter, and man,
Right.
gets in, gets out, plenty strong, plenty wrong, boom, done.
Yeah,
So
it's a
good.
great title too. Like,
Oh yeah,
kind of takes
Yeah.
you to a certain headstrong headspace, and it communicates.
Yeah. I don't
Track 4.
have a joke here. So track 4, Darkest of Kin.
you know what's coming next,
Oh,
Roman?
yeah. Have you guys seen the video for this song?
No,
Yes.
I haven't.
Mm-mm.
I'm sure Josh
You guys
has.
never seen the video
Like
for it?
all, I
Josh
like all
has.
like the skating and stuff.
We recorded the video for this song at Hurley, like the Hurley headquarters.
Ah.
Nice.
They had like a big sound stage for videos, I think, and whatever else they wanted to do.
Sweet.
But the basis of it, so like if you watch that video, you guys remember the movie Lords of Dogtown?
Oh, yeah.
About skaters who would.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So the guys in that video are like the actual guys that the movie was about.
Oh wow.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and we just sort of made the music video for this in conjunction with them and Hurley. So that was a really weird, like kind of a one-off thing. I didn't expect coming,
Yeah.
but
Right.
it's cool.
Like Maylene plus skate culture doesn't like fully make sense to me, but it
I kind of
also
love
like
it.
it kind of does though.
I like. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that
Like-
it happened. That's very cool.
yeah.
Yeah, and Darren, I can't remember his last name, but like, oh, right here, that little in the background, that's a rotor. That's a rotor from a brake drum.
What?
Oh, that's amazing.
Incredible. Yeah, I was like, that's not a ride bell. I don't know what it
Nah.
is, but it's
I
not.
didn't know. Apparently, it's a well-known recording trick, and I didn't know that.
Really?
Yeah,
Huh.
you
Sounds
can
like
totally
some
hear it.
like 9 Inch Nails kind of shit.
Yeah, that's it. Literally, is like bands like Nine Inch Nails and a whole bunch of others were mentioned. I think when we all said, "What, we're going to use a rotor for
Mhm.
that part," and it totally made sense.
I love it.
Interesting.
Yeah, Darren, somebody who had done a whole bunch of music videos, like Norma Jean's first music video and a bunch of others. Everybody knew him. He was like a legendary music producer for the metal scene even before we came along. Did this video. He's a
Sweet.
great guy. I don't know what he's doing these days, but I think he still does something.
So in his mind, the Hurley skater culture and Maylene thing
Yeah.
made sense. Like he was like,
Yeah,
"You guys, this is gonna be
Yeah.
great."
yeah. It all
It'll
worked
work,
out. It was
trust
like
me.
I love it.
Well, so like what's funny is I don't know what my perception of Southern Californians was before we hit the road. I can't really remember. Whatever it was, when we hit the road and actually got into Southern California, it got completely trashed because
Mm.
like Southern Californians who were born and raised there and who are all about Southern Cal they're like Western Southerners. That's like what they're all.
Yeah, right.
It's like this weird
Yeah.
thing, like long hair. They do the same stuff that we did in the South. It was all about barbecues and riding trucks and like cut off shirts. Like that was just how they were, So I think the skater culture in Southern Cal was like a natural piece of it somehow, and
It
it
fit.
sort of worked.
And it worked.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. That's cool. This song, if I didn't love Plenty Strong so much, would be my favorite.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
It's just, this whole song I wrote is absolutely filthy. Like,
Right.
in the best way. And
I mean, this might be like the strongest, like, 6-song run of any of the records we've covered this year.
Oh man!
Wow.
I mean, they're
That's a big statement.
no, I
And
know,
this song-
and I will stand the fuck by it.
Oh man! Well, and this song also has like if you've seen Maylene live, this is just such a live staple too because
Yeah.
the whole like stand up, fist out thing, like it's
Yeah, no,
I mean,
it's
what else
all
do you want?
sequenced like so perfectly. It's sequenced kind of like a live show, like
Yeah.
it
Mm.
energy wise, like everything just like falls into place.
Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
like I didn't get to go to Furnace Fest when Maylene played a couple of years back, but that song and the one that's coming up because I heard the opening riff, like I was surprised that all these years later people still react to them sort of the same way they did when we
oh,
made the record and like
classics.
yeah.
Mm.
So that's cool. That's awesome to see that like that people still kind of respond the same way and they sort of stood the test of time on their own. You know, that's fun.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I feel like this record is like the real ones know. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
this. I don't know if it's. I'm so disconnected from the quote unquote scene. I have no idea if this is like a fan favorite, but it's such a favorite of mine that if anyone else in my life is like, yeah, Maylene too, I'm like, okay, you know what's up.
Mm.
So let's move on to track number 5, Raised by the Tide.
Way out in the cold west, but I'm soaring on Alabama. These days have taken me, but not for better things.
Great.
Well, this one ought to speak for itself. No, you don't have to ask too many questions about the lyrical content from this one, TJ.
Mhm.
The name says it all. You know,
Exactly.
18 national championships, you know,
That's right.
Nick Saban, you know.
Okay. So upon hearing this opening riff again, I'm gonna rescind my previous statement that Dry the River is my favorite song. This is my favorite song.
Oh,
I love that it's just an ever evolving choice.
Yeah, okay, no. Fuck, man. Okay, this is my favorite Maylene song. I think of all time. I think it's gotta be. It's gotta be this one.
so the thing you said
It's
10
this
minutes
one.
ago, you've changed.
Yep. Nope. Let's cut all that. This is. I'll just cut this. Where everything I said about that track into this one. This is the best. It's so good.
You'll know this. You'll know this because you're a guitar player, Kylan. So, "Dry the River," the opening riff from that sounds more complex than that
Right.
does, but they're total opposites when you actually try to play them.
Mm.
"Dry the River" is
Mhm.
actually kind of easy to play.
Right.
That opening riff, the opening riff for "Raised by the Tide" jumps like 4 strings
Oh,
Right.
it's,
between notes.
Whoa.
it's tough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to play it the right way.
I played
Yeah.
it all the time in high school, and I
It's like-
never quite got it down.
Right. It's like,
Nice.
hey mom, look, I can play the pentatonic scale, but it's like you start with one version and then you level up to like pentatonic
No,
plus.
yeah, you're jumping
So,
between the
yeah.
A and the B string. It's
Yeah.
Well, I
it's
think
a
that's
lot.
one of the reasons that this record made the jump, right? Like, you know, when you're writing that stuff initially, any style of music like this, you think pentatonic scale, and like that's what you go with. And then, you know, at some point in there, you're in the major pentatonic scale too, and the minor, you know, but you don't even consider that there are 15 different styles of picking and playing to play like this kind of music and write it. And it requires a whole lot of that. And you don't really learn that until you get into the studio and you start getting direction
Yeah.
on how it's actually done.
Mhm.
We got a little bit of that on the first album and while we were on the road as well. And that's why the second record, by that time, like our guitar players had learned kind of how to do that, you know,
Oh, and dude, you're just fucking holding it down. Right
just
there in
holding it
that low
down.
end.
You know what I mean?
It's almost
Yeah.
Just in the
you know?
background, you
Yeah.
know, just stand by my 810. Don't say anything, you know, sing when I'm told to. I mean, it's, you know,
Like a good bassist.
Yeah. Okay, and it's got that like
Oh, yeah.
it's got that marching snare that comes in right here.
Oh yeah, March and Snare.
And some gang vox.
Ah.
Yeah. No, this is definitely another contender for most iconic Maylene riff for me.
Yeah.
My dad always would say that it reminded him of Life in the Fast Lane by the Eagles whenever
Yes.
I'd play it for him.
I totally hear that.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that march and snare sound, Colin. So if I remember correctly, this is like what we put into this record.
Mhm.
We actually had like a marching band director from one of the local colleges in Alabama come in
Nice.
and work with us on
Oh,
writing
that's awesome.
like the cadence on that. Like
Oh,
when
cool.
we had Lee work with him and just learn how to play it.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, like that sort of like
All over the record.
college
Really,
fight
yeah.
song
Yeah.
snare throughout,
Which
that
really makes sense for
leads.
this track.
Yeah,
Obviously,
for sure.
it
Roll
takes you
Tide.
to a place. Roll Tide.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I also really love this track because it reminds me of a band. I don't know, Roman, if you know this band, but J. Roddy Walston and the Business. You
Yeah.
ever heard of them?
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah, I've heard of them. Yeah.
the way that Dallas's vocals sound on this reminds me of J. Roddy Walston's vocals, and like
Yeah.
they're great. There's something about their vocal sound and style, especially on the chorus, that Alabama, like whatever he's doing there, that kind of yell sing thing, and I love it. It's
It's
best.
a lot. Yeah. It's a lot less Pantera and a lot more, name any like Guns N' Roses or someone like
Right.
that. Where like that, it's like
Yeah.
a sort of like a half chorus laden, like, soaring vocal that kind of shoots out
Yes.
into the open in its own weird way.
As someone who does not care one iota about college football, this song makes me want to fucking watch football.
I mean, Alabama, it's so funny that we're covering this record this year because this record came out in 2007 when the GOAT, the greatest of all time, Nick Saban, was hired at Alabama.
Right.
Well, and then he retired. He just retired this
wow,
year, and
that's
Alabama
true.
hired a new football coach.
It was the Saban era, man.
Time is a flat
Yeah.
circle. It's all
Closing it
connected.
down.
All connected, baby.
It's all connected.
That's right.
All right.
All right, guys, let's move on to track number 6, Wiley.
I feel like hell. I caught the sickness once again, and that don't feel right. I ain't getting up. Think I'm slipping.
Yeah, Wiley. God, I'm gonna blow this because of how long it's been, but I'm pretty sure Wiley was the nickname of like one of our friends, and that's where the song name comes from.
Nice.
Yeah, tons of slide guitar. So tons of slide guitar in the background on this.
But it's so good. Ah,
Yeah, well, and you're doing some like the guitars in the first verse are a little weird, kind of, and I feel like you're filling in some like more fun stuff. Like you're getting to play out a little bit more with what the guitars are doing
Little
at the
more.
beginning of the song. Yeah,
Yeah, especially on the bridge. There's like a doubled bass line where we had a low part and a high part.
Ooh,
Oh,
cool.
cool.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
Yeah.
That's fun.
This is one of my favorite like building breakdowns
Yeah.
right here.
Yeah, the whole instrumental and to the end of the song it builds so well.
I forget how crisp those cymbals were, dude. Those cymbals are like
Mm-hmm.
just the perfect amount of crisp. They're not like
Yeah.
sharp. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're sitting exactly where you want them to.
Yeah. That's how, man, so many metal bands don't get that part.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's like you don't have to have like sharp, shrieking cymbals. Just get
No.
them to sit in there.
And they don't have to cover the whole like space, like the stereo
Right.
space, right? They just like sit right where they need to, do the thing, stay crispy.
Right.
right. Well, I mean, there's even something to be said about the guitar tone and the bass tone on this record too. Like everything sits really well.
Mhm.
Like I feel like with the first record, whatever that mix was felt a lot harsher. Right? But
I think it probably was. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
and this like everything just like sat exactly where it was supposed to sit.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the first record, I mean, I think I recorded the bass parts with like this Yamaha 5-string bass that I bought for like $500, and there was some version of that all throughout the first record. Not like inferior instruments, but just like, you know, they weren't like a $2,000, you know, like rare guitar, you know, those types of instruments where it's like a $2,000 guitar. There were probably like 7 guitars used on this record, just electrics.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
You know, 7 different types of guitars. And there were a couple of different basses that we used. You know, everything was amped a certain way because Jason had he had the downstairs area that he could use, but he also had upstairs. He had like a big recording room. He had like small, like booth recording spaces in front of that, you know. He had these back rooms behind the main recording room. So he could mic guitar amps like in any of those. And he would run more often than not, what he was doing is he was running like a loud clean tone, you know, for chime through like a matchless cab, you know, with like a DI. And then we were running like a diesel head through, you know, like a Marshall JCM 900 412. I think that's what we used. Don't even quote me on that. I forget what cab he used. He'd run that in the other room. So he'd run that like 50 feet away in the other room, and like all the timbre of that tone was in there on all that. And I forget what bass amp we used. We had some sort of bass amp running plus the DI, right? Just to get the tone.
Yeah. This record, like as a step up from the last record, it just felt like everyone upped their game.
Oh yeah.
From the way you guys were playing to even how all of the sound was captured, it just felt like you guys all just leveled up a little bit.
That's what I mean. Like, I think the first record we recorded like in just over a month, right? We already had most of the songs, you know, so we just kind of hammered out a record, and it was cool because that was like just a natural, fun thing. This record was like, you know, all that time pieced together of writing it, that pre-production time, and then like trying every kind of thing to get certain tones and sounds. And Jason was very specific, like, you know, we're not going to use sound replacements. You know, we're not going to use like Chris Lord Algae. Even back then, Chris Lord Algae had a bunch of computer generated sound replacements of his own sounds. So if you sent him a record to mix, more often than not, he would replace the sounds of the drums with his own sounds. And so that's fine. It works for some bands, and like those sounds are sampled sounds of real drums. So it's not like you're not hearing real drums. You're still hearing the drummer's performance, you know, with some super heavy editing. But Jason didn't do things that way. He wanted you to get it right. Like you had to get the performance right, you know?
Cool.
Right. And so there was a lot of pressure because of that, I think, but it also helped us make that record. That's the part that I as like as infuriating as it could be, you know, as hard as it can be to do that, you know, it's also like worth it and a lot of fun, you know.
Right.
Yeah. And that's why
almost like,
the jump happened, I think.
Excuse me as I turn this into a movie podcast, but you know, it's
here almost, we go.
You know, like
you're talking about the jump from Silence of the Lambs to Hannibal.
You know what?
Exactly.
I could. That's not where I was going, but I do kind of love that. No, like there's a sense of craftsmanship that comes before the edit, before the post-production, you know, and you brought up Chris Lord Algae, and in a way, I feel like a lot of records that came out around this time kind of suffer from that sort of sameness because he was so good at what he did. But, you know, I would say like Maylene 2, however that came about, would be more like a Paul Thomas Anderson film, like a Magnolia, a Boogie Nights, as opposed to like a Michael Bay, right?
Yeah.
Right. Like
that's a good way to. That's a very good way to describe it.
Like,
yeah.
You know, there's still a fondness for Armageddon, for potentially like the first Transformers movie, but it's a lot of like
In the shadows.
flash and bang and like there's a lot of post processing that happens that feels really good in the moment, but you're not going to talk about it much later. Whereas like Magnolia, guys, should we turn this show into a Magnolia podcast? I could just talk about
cut you off
okay.
right
All right,
there.
fine. I understand.
No,
But you're right. You're
no,
right
the
in a
point-
certain sense about
is
Yeah.
well said.
But there's
think you
a
nailed it.
craftsmanship and care that takes place in the making of it.
Sure.
That translates, 17 years later.
to the listener. Yeah.
that thing is different, right? That's the point that was the point for us as a band, and we did not want to do the here today gone tomorrow thing.
Yeah.
We, technically like the penultimate era of Maylene happened in a very short amount of time. It was like 5-6 years, which was the entire time that I was in it. And so maybe that was a mute point or whatever, but the songs still mean a lot to a lot of people. And I constantly run into that. For a long time, I think I ran away from it because I don't, I love Maylene, but I and I'm happy. I'm proud of the records we made. Clearly,
Right.
I wouldn't even be on your podcast, but I don't want to make that music anymore, specifically
Right.
like
Yeah,
that,
yeah, sure.
right? But even still, like I've learned to accept and be appreciative of the records that we made and the fact that people still love them. And all that work is the reason that that's the case.
Yeah.
There's no
exactly.
question about that. I still think that when it comes to artists, you just kind of have to figure out how to get the right expression across for what you're trying to present to people when you're trying to tell a story. That's always what's ever made the difference, right?
Yep.
Like Michael Bay has a script. He doesn't have a story. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's a big difference. And I think that's the point. Like there's an artist that I'm into right now called McGee, MK.GE.
Oh yeah, McGee's cool.
He's so good. He's so talented, but a lot of the like drum parts and stuff like that, I've listened to him do a talk about how he records stuff. A lot of the drum parts and like background stuff is comped or like doubled,
Yeah.
to get that sound.
Yep.
But you would never know that when you hear his music because he understands how to get the story of the song across that he's trying to tell.
Mm.
And he's a super talented guitar player and piano player, right? And I think that's the whole point when you're recording a record, even for artists now, where you could just digitize everything
Right.
to hell and
you
back.
could comp in everything.
You literally could do that. And there's even, since I record my own stuff and I buy plugins all the time, I see all the time I get hit up with ads for plugins now for guitar samples and bass samples where you don't have to write the music. You would just go in, upload those samples and put the rhythm in the key that you want. And you can create a song like that royalty free, right?
Mm.
Problem with that is you sell 10,000 of those and 10,000 people are using the same riffs and same sounds and all that to make their own songs.
Yep.
And you do have to get creative with that to be fair for it to sound like yourself. But like, it's not plugging up to an amp, in a
In a
120-year-old
haunted KKK headquarters.
It's just not the
It's
same
different.
Nothing
thing.
like it. Yeah.
Yeah. To me, I've always just appreciated that feel more of that. Like I live in a 1-bedroom apartment here in Nashville. So I bought this huge box to soundproof my amp so that I could start miking my amp again. Cause I tried to use plugins and
It's not the
like
same.
it sucks. It's
Right.
not the same. There's no feel in it. It gets all of your feel and all the timbre in your hands wrong
Mhm.
because
Right.
of the way digital signals work. So I literally plugged a mic up and dropped it into the back of the amp. I didn't do anything special, and just turned my amp up and put it in that box so it's quiet and it sounds phenomenally better. It's like 10 times better,
Sweet. That's so rad.
Hopefully artists will get that and start and keep
I
trying to
think
make
so.
records.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that.
To your point, Roman, further and to defend the value of trying to create a work from scratch in a way that is authentic and artistic, I defy an AI to write the words, "When I fall, the clouds won't cradle. Oh, how tempting they are. Make you feel like you have it all. drive me mad, a full-on rampage. The older I am, the less feeling I have. Without the gospel losing the truth, I'm losing the truth.
Yeah.
I defy an AI lyric generator to write that.
To be that good.
Dude,
You know what I mean?
so listen. Oh, yeah. Well, I think it was Rick Beato who made a video recently about the lyrics to Across the Universe versus
Right.
the lyrics to, I think, I don't know, Charlie Puth or someone like that song. And like the two differences, you know, are just vast in one, the complexity, but two, the story that you're hearing and the beauty of those lyrics.
Yeah, the originality, right?
Yeah. I mean, Jason Elgin drove that point home when we were recording this record, because something he was good at also was like teaching in the moment on the fly. So like if we were talking about lyrics, he would pull up examples like Across the Universe or something like that from the Beatles and show us how the lyrics like live on their own as poetry. You don't have to have music going to them, right?
Right.
That is hard to do, but if you just practice it, then you kind of get the stuff that you heard Dallas write on this record. You know, that's kind of the whole point is, the AI can't generate that shit. Like it can't do it, man.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
AI can't do that. There's no algorithm that you're going to build that can piece all those thoughts together that way. It's just not. It's not expressive enough. And I know that because I work in tech, right? So I understand like how the technology works, and it's not expressive enough. And no developer is going to sit there and be able to say like, hey, you're going to have to think through these 10 emotions, compress that into a phrase and then make it fit inside this like subset, So,
all right. You heard it here first at Church Jams Now. Fuck AI. All right. So
that's like the most Christian thing ever said, I think.
So track number 7, Death as an Alcoholic.
Yeah, so, oh man, I won't reveal any names. Death was the nickname that we had for someone very close to us. Who had never drank a drop of alcohol in his life, and then started drinking because that person was on the road with us.
Shit.
Yeah, and the joke was that he was an alcoholic. Oddly enough, here we are 20 years later, and I'm pretty sure he works at a bar. So I don't think it was 100% off. I don't think he's an alcoholic. Thankfully, hopefully he's not. But yeah, that's where the name came from.
So well-intended, like inside joke.
Yes, well-intended inside joke.
Great.
And that's the case still, hopefully for him or anyone who's ever dealt with that kind of addiction.
For sure.
Well, I love that. That's like. It seems like a pretty intense song title, but you're like, oh no, it's just a joke. Like it's not. I'm not commenting on death, or it's like it's a inside joke. We call our friend that, and it's a joke about it. So
it is a really intense
like,
song
wow,
title.
I was like, wow, that is an intense song title. Like, okay, what's Dallas trying to say with this? But it's a joke,
right? I mean, the lyrics do seem to be pretty heady, like. And emotive, like I'm heading home alone. Don't give up. You're stronger than you look. Just know I've loved you both. I mean, there's a lot of feels there.
Well, it's the same thing as why. So the funny thing about Maylene, it is the same thing as Wiley. Like Wiley, just kind of, it's just a random name that we used for that song, but I don't think it was like even tied to it. I think this is the same kind of case where
the lyrics have their own space that they inhabit. And point and a concept that they're working with, and the title is just sort of a thing you use to refer to the song.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
I think there are a lot of artists.
But sometimes
like
it makes an extra like connection between the two. Like you can get an extra angle on a potential message of the song.
Right, especially for someone who doesn't have the context. Right, you can just like map your own meaning onto it and be like, oh well, this is because. Whatever, even though you have no clue.
I think so. I looked up the tracks, Colin, when you stepped away, and I think the next song is literally the exact same thing as what we're talking about right now. It's literally the next. I think the next 2 or 3 actually, we used names of people that we know, and that's how we referred to whatever that song was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah.
Is the next track "Everyone Needs a Hasting"? Did I see that right?
Yep.
Yes,
That's correct.
All right. Well,
Okay.
hey, let's go ahead and get right into it. Track number 8. Everyone needs a Hasting.
Oh, it's that song. Okay.
So
Proves your
fun.
point.
I love
Totally
it.
proves your point, Roman.
Yeah.
It's like a place setter. Like it's just kind of
Hey,
like
there's another guitar solo on the intro there for you,
Yeah.
John.
oh yeah.
Yeah, that's so fun that
So
we did
good.
that.
This one also ends with a guitar solo too. A little bookend.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It does, doesn't it?
It
Okay.
does. Yeah.
So everyone needs a Hastings. So we were friends with a guy named David Hastings. His son is the current singer and started a band called My Children, My Bride.
Oh,
shit.
Out of Huntsville.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Nice. That's fun.
Yeah. Matt Hastings.
Crazy.
And everyone needs one in their life, you know?
Everyone does.
That's
Yep.
so good.
I mean, where would the world be without My Children, My Bride? That's another good band.
That's
You
true.
That's true. Very true.
It's
feel like
it's
you're
like
metal.
if on Church Jams now we were like, everyone needs a Josh Olson.
Hey, everyone needs an Olsen.
That's right.
Everyone needs a Smith.
Yeah.
Or a
We
Sam.
would. Nobody knows if
Thanks,
it's
Sam.
Ashley, Mary Kate
True,
Ashley,
Yeah, who knows?
or if it's Josh.
Spelled a little
You know.
differently, but you could tell. You could tell.
What's
Roman-
what's the other sister that's really famous?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth Olsen.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's
the-
her. No relation.
She's the one that's like in
to me.
movies and stuff now, right?
Yeah.
Marvel stuff. Yeah.
Marvel movies. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very true.
I love that we're talking about Full House right in the middle of this.
Hey, welcome to Church Jams now.
Yep.
This is what we do.
I mean, most of your podcast is about the '90s, frankly. If we're being
That's true.
real,
That's true. That's
you
true.
know,
Yeah.
like the
Valid point.
penultimate time in Christian music.
100%. All right, Josh, what did you want to ask?
I do want to ask though, was there at least a conscious decision or like a challenge to switch up every like guitar riff between the verses? Because it seems like every song on here, you guys start with a riff for the first verse, but then by the time the second verse comes along, you're like, we're totally abandoning that, or we're changing it into something else. Like there's a lot of times where y'all like it morphs into something more. And was that just like something that y'all were aware of, or that you just had Cornette just had riffs falling out and he's like, we'll just change it up. Why use the same riff twice
Yeah.
when you can write a new riff?
Right. I think it's a combination of two things. I think it's a combination of that, like Cornette and Josh Williams and Scott Collum had a lot of riffs that were getting thrown around with co-writers that we used at Jason's studio and stuff like that. Jacob Bunton and some I think maybe like Michael Swan and some others who were in there. So you've got like you had like 6 guitar players. I
It's
would
like a
throw
brain
riffs
trust of genius
Right.
guitarists.
right, and it's just like, well, we still have to write a song. We can't write a culmination of riffs consistently. So like, how are we gonna what's the song purpose that we're trying to
It's
get
like
across
it's
here?
like building a puzzle, right? Like you're like, okay, this one
Right.
fits here. This one can go there. Throw that one on verse 3.
Or it didn't exist, and it's like, well, you got to create something in the moment. And so sometimes just under pressure, like literally at the, you're literally in the studio, like you're tracking, and it's like, you need a riff right here. You need something different on this part.
Right.
And so you play like 4 riffs and you get a no, and then you play the 5th one and it's like, that's it. Let's record it. And you just hit
Yeah.
record.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, brother. Roll Tide.
Everyone needs a Hastings and everyone needs a couple new riffs for your second verse.
Everyone needs an Olsen.
Everyone needs an Olsen.
I like, actually, Colin, yours were everyone
A
needs a
Savage.
Savage.
Oh,
Come
yeah.
on.
Ooh,
I mean,
everyone does need a Savage. Well,
It's true. I agree.
that's Savage.
I don't know. based on my family history, I don't know if we can stand by that statement. As an organization, as Church Jams Now, I don't know if everyone needs a savage.
As a counterpoint, Church Jams Now does, and as a counterpoint, if it's a Kylan model savage, all day long,
yeah.
I want that.
Oh, I guarantee
I
you,
want that for sure.
You don't need a Dortha Savage. Because this would be a totally different podcast if it was my grandmother.
That's so funny.
All right, guys, let's move on to track number 9. Don't ever cross a trowel.
Mama didn't raise no fool. Steady, steady, and I move. 'Cause you know Mama didn't raise no fool.
So shout out to Ian and Jordan Travel, who are some good friends of ours.
Good
Oh my
last
God.
Don't cross them, though. Don't cross them.
Seriously, you don't. I'm not kidding. You don't mess with the trowels. Let me tell you something. One time we were playing a show and Ian was supposed to be there and nobody could find him. And we finished the show and we went backstage, like we had loaded up our gear. And here comes Ian and he's got just like, it was just like a metal plate of some sort with wild boar sausages from a wild boar that he had shot in the head with a pistol while he was hunting.
Wait. With a pistol?
During your show?
With a pistol. Yeah. Or like right after. He must have been where he was. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how long it took him to kill it or when he did, but yeah. We didn't see him anywhere. He must have been making sausages, cooking them up somewhere.
So big Maylene fan, but also like a javelina hunter in his spare time.
Yeah, just
and
living his life.
the two interests kind of conflicted that night.
Sometimes they did.
Oh, yeah.
Also, TJ,
as they should for anyone, you know.
Javelina Hunter is the best unreleased Maylene song.
Yeah, well, absolutely it is. You can have that one, Roman. That's yours.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
That's going to be my Maylene side project.
Yeah, there you go.
Hopefully
Javelina
we can
Hunter.
open up for him on the next tour.
There you go.
With Javelina Hunter. Maylene and the Sons of Disaster. With Javelina Hunter.
There you go. And
And
Del
right
Sir.
Romans. That's so
Special
good.
guest, Del Sir. Friday night. Mr. Biggs.
Yeah. Dude, if I was like 23, I 100% would pay $17 to go to that show.
To see that, Bill?
17,
yeah,
18,
To see-
19.
Man,
Yeah,
this when
dude.
shows
Javelina
were
Hunter.
Yeah.
that much.
I mean, if you wanted everybody to go home with enough gas money and food, you might want to even charge $25, but people would pay it for that lineup.
Oh,
I'll tell you
You know
this:
what I mean?
hanging around these junctions, that's where the good Lord reigns.
Yeah.
that's so good. I love
Everybody
that-
needs
getting
a
the
savage.
backstory because
Oh,
of this.
okay, sorry,
Needs a
Josh.
savage.
Josh, I know you're trying to be a real podcaster, and we're just fucking off.
I like
I'm
the
sorry.
song. I want to talk about it.
Okay, fine. Talk about the song.
Well, I was curious
Is that
because
what
I was
we
like,
do here?
"Is don't ever cross a trowel? Is that some like Southern phrase or something like that that I'm not aware of?" But it's not apparently, not at all. So
It is if you crossed a trowel. Yeah, if you go
it
down to
is if
Florida,
you know them.
yeah, if you're ever in the Central Florida area, don't mess with anyone
Not
named
mess with
Trowel.
them. Okay.
There are
Got it.
like I mentioned Ian and Jordan, but there are like 50 of them.
They got cousins.
All
Yeah.
So you might-
across them.
You
Yeah.
might come across them, but you don't want to cross
Oh,
them.
absolutely.
Ooh.
Yeah, no.
Important
they're-
distinction.
Got it.
Lucky
Yep.
for you, lucky for everybody. They're really great people, like nicest guys in the world. You know, Yeah,
Until
Just
you
don't
cross
cross
them.
until
Unless
you
you're a
cross them.
javelina.
They're-
The last thing I want to say about this song is that this has one of my favorite riffs on the record on it.
Ooh, really?
At 107 in the second verse.
Perfect.
Is
I was hoping
just
for a
super
time
specific.
code.
Let's go
I
to there.
got
I
it.
was hoping
I got
for
it.
a time
Like,
code. Here we
let's
go.
hear that.
Listen to how good this riff is. Once again, switching it up between the first and second verses. Come on.
oh yeah, I
That's
remember.
great. I love that.
And then Lee goes to the little ride. I love when drummers hit like the bell of the ride.
Mhm.
It's like my favorite thing.
It's
Yeah.
so classic rock. It's so
It really
Like-
is.
speaks to my white trash heart. I'm just like, ugh. I just want like a nasty riff and some fucking bell on the ride.
It's like the dinkiest thing you could do, like tink, tink, tink.
Yeah.
But I love
it's
it.
perfect.
Yes.
There's that major pentatonic instead of the minor pentatonic.
Yeah.
You know, it's in that range. And so, you know, for all you kids out there who want to start a Southern hardcore band, you just got to learn to palm mute at the right time. You can write your own little riff.
Hey,
like that.
we did it.
Case
It's not
in
hard.
point.
We could do it. It's not that hard.
We did it. I mean, I think I had like 3 guitar lessons ever. You know what I mean?
Nice.
We can make it happen in our band,
down.
and you can make it happen in yours.
That's right.
Inspo culture. There you go.
I'm TJ. I'm still just in awe of Haviland Hunter. I gotta go back to it. I know we've moved on, but I haven't personally.
I'm glad, man. I'm
It's
happy I got to like throw that little nugget your way.
Yeah, it's so good.
Dude, start the Instagram handle. We'll figure
Great.
out the content later.
Well, yeah.
You know, get it on.
Yeah, just
Let's
find the
monetize.
Figure it
URL.
out.
Let's go. You know,
It could
I
be
know
a
we
show.
all don't want to work anyway. Let's figure out how to get 1 million followers and just monetize out of that.
We could even just
Haviland
find a
Hunter.
guy that's really into, you know, wild pig hunting, wild boar.
Yeah, that's like
And-
some History Channel show waiting to happen.
Yes, absolutely it is. And we could score it. We could write all the songs, the theme, and we got it.
Wait.
The legend of Haviland Hunter.
And Roman's going to do the voiceover.
Yeah,
Roman can do the voiceovers.
Roman, you have that VO voice.
Oh,
I
when,
do, yeah.
I thought Kylan was doing another like soundbite because of your radio voice. Like that's too good.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I've been in radio for
Too
13
good.
years. I finally learned how to do that.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah.
Hell
All right, guys. Let's move on to track number 10, Tale of the Runaways.
Legends are made in shallow graves, raised to meet disaster's embrace. Justice has its place for my
I've got a very specific lyrical question. And again, if we don't know the answer, we'll get to the bottom of it eventually. Maybe not today. But maybe Roman knows. Is the Ma we're referring to Ma Barker?
It is. So
Okay, great.
this is, yes.
That's
So
so satisfying.
Tale of the Runaways is the idea that some of the sons escaped.
Okay.
And yeah.
That's great.
So this gets back to actually naming the record like after the whole shtick anyway. You know what I mean? Instead of just using our friends' names to reference the songs. And so that's Rodney Wayne Reeves from the band Wayne singing right there.
Oh, cool.
Cool.
That was my question.
And then I sing with him on the chorus, and then I have the second verse, and then we sing together on the rest of the song.
Awesome.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Love that.
And the idea of that is we're the two brothers that got away, like ran away
Oh, sweet.
from
that's
the
great.
cops.
What a cool song, man.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, because that was my question is like the rest of the lyrics, is that within like the world? Is like Dallas writing from that, or is Dallas just writing other songs? But then like when we get to this song, then we're kind of getting back to the narrative.
So the narrative exists throughout the whole thing, right? Like you're telling the story all the way through, which is
Okay.
the beauty of the work we were putting in on this record is that you had that long line from A to B, right? But instead of thinking about like every little step along the way, you just think of the natural progression to getting there. That includes not just the shtick in the storyline. It also includes like what we're experiencing and how we could relate it to a story that, you know, it would be within the storyline.
Right.
Right.
There are themes that loosely fall within the greater narrative.
Right.
Whether they're linear or not
Yeah.
doesn't matter as much.
If somebody tells you a story of Mal Barker and the Sons, you hear about the shootout, you hear about the crimes. You don't hear about, you know, what their day to day was like, right? But they had
Right.
friends, they had, you know, all this stuff going on, right? There was probably a lot of travel between places that they robbed. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
it all kind of it fit into the narrative in its
Yeah.
own weird kind of way.
Life here was cold and hard, planned our future, never seeing all the hell that was
Right.
to come. Like, kind of getting their future robbed from them by having it kind of...
Sandy Heron, he was in the band Cavo. Or
Oh,
is
hey.
in the band Cavo.
Shout out. Oh, that's 2 shout outs on the show.
That's great.
Andy does a lot of like drumming and stuff like that here in Nashville. So you
Oh,
probably
cool.
heard him on something.
Oh,
Sweet.
nice. Very cool.
Right
And
on.
you said you're singing the second verse, Roman?
Yeah.
Nice.
I forgot that until you started playing the song, and then I remembered. Oh crap! Here comes the part where I sing. It's like, let's talk over it. Let's talk loudly over it.
Nah, dude, it's so good. It's so
Yeah,
good.
no,
Hell yeah.
This
this song is great.
It's a perfect like penultimate track for an album like this.
I have a
Yeah.
counterpoint to that, Kylan.
Oh, do you? You
Yes.
hate it. Roman
No.
should never sing ever again.
It's
or
the opposite. It couldn't be further from that. I love this song so much that I think it needs its own moment on the album that isn't penultimate, that isn't just before the day hell broke loose. My alternative track list is going to be
Ooh.
the same track list, except instead of Tale of the Runaways being track 10, I think it needs to be track 6.
Okay.
So I think it needs to
Start
get wedged
side B.
between Raised by the Tide and Wiley.
Oh, I like that. I like
Yeah,
That'd be a fun
because-
start to side B. Yeah.
Yes, because it's the second most mellow track on the album, right? And I think it's a good bookend or like middle slot for that track to take things down a little bit and then launch back up.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good call.
Yeah. And because both are so great, I like 10 and 11 so much that I don't want them back to back. To fully appreciate them, I want them spaced out. I like what they're both doing so much that I want to put Tale of the Runaways
Yeah.
as
I like
track
that.
6.
That's a really
Yeah.
You
good
could
call.
create that playlist.
Yeah.
You could just
Yeah.
create your own
Yeah.
like
That's what we
TJ's
do here.
playlist
Yeah.
version. Yeah.
Mhm. We talk a lot about sequencing, Roman, and like this to me is like the album's perfect until that point, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I want Tale of the Runaways to have like
mellow it out a little bit.
a spotlight
switch it up.
moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just hang out, just vibe.
All right, guys. Well, it comes down to this, the last track, The Day Hell Broke Loose at Sickard Hollow.
The shootout track. You know.
Nice. So cinematic,
Yeah. Okay, TJ, you are so right.
right?
Yeah, this has to start side B of the record.
Wait.
No. The Tale of the Runaways needs to start side B
So that this can end it.
end it. Yeah.
Well, and I like that this song is an instrumental, but in
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
booklet there are like lyrics, like so you get to kind of like
You can read
follow the
along.
story. Yeah, and I feel like that makes it a little bit more like cinematic because there kind of is like a script, but it's not in. So you kind of get to like imagine it or place yourself in there, which is
Yeah.
a fun way to end the
And-
record.
Another thing I thought about too on that point, Josh, is like you can pace it the way that it makes sense narratively or in like a cinematic. Oh my god,
Cinematic.
Oh.
Oh, that's a Church Names Now original.
cinematic.
Cinematic.
Cinematic. It's cinematic, but it's got some razzmatazz too.
No, I love that. I'm going to
Cinematic.
use that in my everyday life.
That's so
cinematic.
Riz.
It's
the
so
Riz,
Riz.
That's Riz. No, it's got a cinematic component to it that you can kind of like pace the narrative the way you want to. That's
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. One could almost say it's cinematic.
You stop that.
I would
Stop
rather
that right
say
now.
No,
that,
okay,
actually.
TJ, I'm genuinely bringing this up because I actually love it.
I'm just over here creating words for no reason. Don't mind me.
Hey, why else would us as three white men in our 30s start a podcast if we're not going to create new words that we want to add to the cultural lexicon?
You know,
I was about to say that stuff, in the 90s and early 2000s, there wasn't a space for that to get recorded for literally forever, but there is now, dude.
there is now.
Yeah.
It's going to be locked into an AI server
Yeah.
once this
Right.
podcast goes live forever.
Roman, I love how much we're talking about AI.
Yeah, dude. Same.
All I can say
It's a
is
problem we got to take care of.
I don't know if
sure.
I don't know if I'm proud, but I am a son of disaster in this context.
That you are.
For
that
sure.
you are.
We're all sons of disaster in our own.
Thanks, Roman. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Wow, we've been inducted. Speaking of Cinematic with this song, I saw that this has a IMDb credit for Californication. Got used in that
Oh,
song,
nice.
that show, I guess.
Oh, didn't know that.
Oh, well, there you go.
I just found
You're
that
not,
out.
you're not getting those royalty
That's
checks,
cool.
Roman?
Man, no.
Everyone's favorite horny show that no one saw.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It was like basically a porn, wasn't
Right.
it? That's what I heard anyway.
It was like
It had David Duchovny
David
as the
Duchovny.
main character.
fucking,
Yeah.
and no one watched it.
Yeah, it's so funny. I heard it's an incredible show, that like an actually really good show. Yeah, that's funny. No, man, royalty statements. So people think that in the era of streaming that you stopped making music like from, or stop making royalties from your tunes and all that. And yeah, there are like mechanicals and stuff like that that's out there, but we're talking about like $5, right? We're not talking about anything worth even setting up. I think it costs $5 to set up an account
Your
with
account,
the
yep.
companies
So you
that
just
would actually
break
track
even.
that for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anything after the Napster era, anything after like iTunes era went live, which was the early 2000s, nobody made money off of their records unless you went platinum,
Right.
and then you could. Yeah. So I've never we got a couple of royalty checks when I was actually in the band at the time, and we got a little bit from that, but not really anything worth writing home about.
Right.
Yeah. I haven't seen anything from it since I left either. It's just how it is.
Well, to be fair, no one but horny ants have probably seen the episode of Californication that this was on.
It's the Ma Barker
And you mean-
episode.
Yeah.
And Colin, you mean insects, right? Like
Yes.
That's what I
yes. Horny
Yeah.
insects
Yeah.
love Californication.
I thought so.
They're just in the corner eating whatever breadcrumbs are there, whatever, like somebody who
But
just left it on the
sexily.
television. You're right.
Would you say they were doing it cinematically?
Cinematically.
Yep, exactly.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah. Oh, wait.
Time
Wait.
is
Wait.
a flat
Hold on.
circle, y'all.
You've brought
All
it back.
connected.
Give me a hell yeah!
Hell yeah. Oh man.
It is a great story, though. The liner note like narrative that exists for this track, and it fits perfectly. I need to say that in all seriousness, that it's really great. It takes you to a place, and you can really visualize Mother Maylene and the sons of
Hell
disaster.
yeah, bro.
Yeah. Well, the fun part about the way that record was made in the storyline is that, one, the Maylene dudes are still, thankfully, Dallas is doing well enough now. It seems like they're going to be able to tour.
Yeah.
So it's cool
That's
that those guys can like go out and keep the storyline going in whatever way they do live and play those songs for people. That's cool. They still use the same old banner we had from like 2007 when they play shows.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Wow.
So like, it's cool that there's like that legacy there.
The first three Maylene records were huge for me, and I think for Josh. TJ, maybe not as much, but that's fine.
But look, man, I'm here for it now.
Hell yeah, brother.
I'll go ahead
Hell
and say
yeah,
this thing's a
brother.
bop.
Hell yeah,
Like I'm
man.
skipping
Hell
ahead,
yeah.
but I don't care.
Yeah.
This thing's a
Roll
bop. Like
Yeah.
Hey, man.
so just I just wanted to underlie your point there, Kylan. It's across the board,
Yeah.
full support
So
from the non-metal guy.
Usually we do a flop or bop from us, but Roman, I want to talk to you and see how you're feeling about Maylene 2 17 years after it came out. Like, how do you feel about it now? Where does it fit within your life? Is it
it's a good question.
Is it a flop or a bop for you?
Oh, it's a bop. Yeah, no, it's a bop.
Brother.
It's a bop that I don't really listen to it. I mean, what happens is like what I would use like this record for is if I'm writing my own stuff and I'm like, wait, this is kind of a Maylene part and I kind of can't piece something together, you know, or if, you know, a memory pops up of something
right
from that time, you know,
if you're watching
it still does.
Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah, something weird like that, you know. I might throw it on in headphones while I'm doing work like the next day.
Yeah.
Driving or whatever I'm doing, you know, in Nashville traffic because freaking the traffic here is just so out of control. You know, so there are times for it like that, but I don't really actively listen to it. So it's just one of those things that's kind of in the background for me in a good way, though. It's something I'm happy about and something I'm thankful that, you know, I got to be a part of, you know, and all those guys that were a part of that, Dallas, Scott Collum, Josh Williams, Lee, myself, and Josh Cornut, and Jason Elgin, Jacob Button, Rodney Reeves, Michael Swan. There were so many people that were just good musicians that were trying to make that record and make it good. And I'm still friends with all those guys. And even if I don't talk to them all the time, you know, I'm still good friends with all those guys. And there's a shared connection that happens when you make a record like this and you do something like that, you know, that just never leaves you.
Right.
Yeah.
So at least for me, you know, and then you'd have to ask the other guys, of course, how they feel. But at least for me, that shared connection is still there, not just because of this record, but this record is like the sound of that.
Yeah,
connection,
it's a timestamp, right? And it's like a concentrated memory that calls you back to time and place.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, I work in radio, I work in marketing. I live in Nashville and, you know, do different things here and there with music. When I need to understand like what confidence I have in my understanding of music, I can go back and listen to this record and remember like all the things I've learned over this time and learned during the making of that album. And, you know, it helps in that regard too. So it's cool. It's like this little, it's like this piece of my life that I have that, you know, is there. Sort of, you know, like you meet athletes who won a national championship or like a, you know, something like that, you know, some memory that they share with their teammates, you know what I mean?
Right.
And they're able to understand their own things from that. Like this isn't by any means something that big. So I hope I don't make it sound like something stupid, but
no, I fully
like
understand. You're comparing yourself to LeBron James.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, brother.
Maylene's a legend that will never die, right?
So, Josh and GJ, I'm just going to put this on the whiteboard for now. I want to, through the powers of Church Jams Now, connect Roman and Cody from the wedding, who's also in Nashville. And let's produce an all bass record.
Perfect.
That's what the people want.
Yes.
Yeah.
I need that. I absolutely need that.
Spinal Tap, right?
Wait, Cody, Cody who?
Driggers.
Cody Driggers. He has a hamburger stand.
Do you know the guy from Plea, the singer from Plea for Purging?
Bad Luck Burger.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know Andy and all those guys. I know this guy. Like I don't think I know him, but like we played shows with the wedding.
Okay. Yeah. Well, okay.
It's some venue in Arkansas.
So we're going to
we should totally do it.
To produce an all bass record. Because I love sweet bass so much.
Man.
We're gonna do like a Spinal Tap kind of thing where everyone's gonna play bass.
No guitar.
I can't wait.
Bass. No guitar.
I have
no guitar.
I have so many ideas. Yeah, because everybody could play like the third octave.
Oh, so, yeah.
And so like here's what we could do. Like one guy is on a bass 6. So I'm sure you've seen a bass 6.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. So one guy's on a bass 6, not a 6-string bass. There's a big difference. One guy is on an 8-string bass, like the bass player from Pearl Jam used to have. And then you got another guy on just a good old fashioned P bass.
Oh yeah.
Because gotta have that.
Okay.
Then you got a guy on a fretless bass.
Ooh.
For like the smooth slides up. You know. You give him like chorus and let him do the boom, you know, the little slide up. And hell yeah. Hell yeah.
I love it.
And do you need a drummer? Really? You could probably do the rhythm with bass and just a loop station.
Yeah.
All bass.
All bass.
Absolutely.
All bass.
Oops, all bass.
It's about
Oops, all bass.
Yeah. I don't even
Really. That's
Haviland
Haviland
Hunter. The first single.
We figured it out.
Oops, all bass.
Oops, all bass.
Okay. Yeah. So
4 basses at one time.
Maylene 2, it's fucking rad as hell. I don't know what else we have to say.
That's about it.
Roman, is there anything else you want to say about this record? And let's open it up for plugs too. Let's do that. Let's talk about yourself.
Roll Tide.
Raise the
tide, man.
Right. And don't give a piss about nothing but the tide. Blitz.
Oh, hey.
Bama Blitz.
Hey. Can we get a hockey update? What's up?
Yeah.
What's up with hockey?
Score.
I know. You got so distracted. You were so entranced.
Him for so long.
Our podcast was that good that Roman forgot about the hockey score.
What happened? What happened?
The Wings were down like by 2 goals. They came back and tied the game and won in a shootout.
Oh shit.
Whoa.
Yeah. But I don't think it matters because the Capitals won. They beat the Flyers by 1 goal.
Oh, damn.
So I think they're locked in. Yep. Wings were eliminated. So that's it. Stanley Cup playoffs are set.
Roman, it's like you're speaking another language, man. I love you, buddy, but I don't know what you said.
Well, I understand that, but hey, you guys
but I'm
have
excited
a tie-in
for you.
Here. You guys have a deep tie-in.
Is that right?
Yeah, the Dallas Stars.
Oh,
or your top
it's all
team.
Connected.
Now time is a flat circle.
It's a flat circle.
Now you just connected it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey,
right.
There it is.
Cool.
Yeah. And they might play the Nashville Predators in the first round.
Ooh, okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Then I'll talk some trash.
All right.
It's all connected. All right, guys. I think that's going to do it from us here at Church Jams Now. Roman, is there anything else you want people to know about?
I'll see you guys next May.
All right.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, brother.
For the 3-peat.
Okay, if you like this, we have more nonsense like it at patreon.com/Church Jams Now podcast. And follow us on all the social media, Church Jams Now. From all of us here at the Church Jams Now crew, may all your favorite bands stay together, and peace out, my friends.
May all your javelinas be hunted forever.
Oh, Jesus.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, brother.